Hello, and welcome to episode 258 of the FReality Podcast. Last podcast, Adam and I were hanging out poolside after MetaConnect's main events with our old podcaster and man with a van, Nathy. I say that because he gave my kids candy. Just like dudes with vans with candy. Anyway, it's always fun looking back at our crazy old hookups, and today will be no different, a nip into the past of modern headsets. Here's today's roster. With nerves leading up to Prom, Meta's Andrew Bosworth kicks his star-studded flats into the dust and looks longingly at shaggy defense tech Palmer Luckey's luscious locks. Apple have a bold new look for their hardware, and we ask, is beauty truly skin deep? HTC have pulled a fast one and named their headset Vision as well. I'm sure consumers won't notice the difference at all. Zimmo went face first into the not-so-slim Visor out in a California cafe to see if productivity is nearly here. And Sony are giving all love to device in their PSVR 2. What Letty gives. Finally, back from his company retreat, the Azores, our fellow named Jose is going to start off Halloween's trick-or-treating session early with a few releases and recaps. And next up, it's on to our crew highlights. All right, Rhodey's notably absent this podcast.
Rhodey?
Because of Rhodey? Did I say Rhodey?
Rhodey.
Oh, I didn't know we had a new crew member.
Yeah.
New crew member named Rhodey. Oh God, that's
Okay.
Okay. Rowdy is notably absent this podcast because a maple magic fairy took her wizardly wand and eviscerated his vocal cords. But don't you worry, he's still in the engine room running today's broadcast. We miss you, man, and hope you get friendly again with that fantasy world so you can join us next time. Jose's up next, having been doing his best to earn the title as Miami's top journeyman, just hot back from the big old state of Texas. How's it going, my man?
Yo, what's up, you guys? I missed y'all. I'm just excited. I'm pumped. I was literally I'm pretty sure I broke like 30 traffic violations getting here.
Oh, God.
Making a pod, but I'm just, jamming to some, Public Enemy, just blasting out music, enjoying the weather and just speeding down, just ready to talk VR with you guys. So just lots of VR. It's probably the busiest. I keep saying that every time. I feel like the bar just keeps getting higher every time I say it. So now I keep saying it just to test the universe. Everybody knows what I do for VR and how I'm all about adoption. It's all about numbers. I don't want to get too in the nitty gritty, but I'm gonna say between 750 to 100,000. That'd be crazy. To 1,000 headsets a week. At locations.
Crazy.
Schools are adopting headsets. Like VR is here. It's something that we can't. They do say that progress feels slow, but it ends up being really fast at the large scales. And this is exactly how you see it. It's having conversations with educators, schools, teachers, principals in the last 3 weeks has been not just eye-opening, but really just it's kind of like finding the lucky gold egg that that people keep telling you it's possible, but nobody else has it. So it's just getting real-time first-person feedback about what's really happening. Is a lot of companies I feel really know what's happening yet, because I'm having conversations with people like David Heaney, Can't Bite, for example, people who are in the thick of it talking about VR, and yet they themselves don't really know the rapid adoption that's happening in education and enterprise. Yeah. So being able to kind of,
Are there specific areas or schools that seem to be adopting them more or faster?
Yes, that's the exciting part. Title I schools, right? So schools that are offering, lower quality income environments, where let's say either, whatever reasons they end up in these school systems, but they're trying to create engagement with students and get them to, have candy with the medicine, learn through immersion, whatever means necessary to, get them in the right path. And VR is truly that. And I saw it firsthand, right? I was setting up a deployment in one of the schools, actually here in Florida, and my own business, right? 'Cause I don't want to be listening to the kids, but there was a moment where one of the kids they were, I don't know what exactly they were, but it was like you could tell it was a misfit bunch in that classroom that were not meant to be there. There were 7 of them, and they were with the teacher because they got pulled out of class, and they put them in the VR headsets, and I just hear them, engaging with the games or whatever, and I just hear one of the kids go like, Miss such and such, this is not good. This is not good. And so I overhear this, and I'm like, oh no, the VR's freaking out or something. And the teacher asks him, what's wrong? And he goes, I need to leave Florida. I need to get out of here right now. And math game, but it was showing them in real time the impacts of flooding, and you could see the water levels rising. And he had immediate first person, awareness of what that would look like. And he saw that in mixed reality, and you could just see the gears churning on him, just silence in the room. And they're all playing. I was able to concentrate. There was no more yapping. And few minutes later after that, you hear the same kid again ask the teacher, Miss, but when are we doing the math problems? And she goes like, you've been doing them all along. I can see it on my tablet. She can see the scores of the kids. So they've been doing the work. He didn't realize it. And as soon as I saw that moment, it was kind of like just fisting a bunch of energy drinks. I was like, this is it. This is it. This is Math Blasters. This is the exact moment that I fell in love with computers. And it's been awesome, and I hopefully within the next month I'll be able to talk about the partners, the software company that we're working with, but the other partners like Pico and ManageXR, which is the MDM solution. They have been incredibly grateful for the work that we took on, right? Because it's such a weird niche expertise that nobody ever thinks about, which is field services for virtual reality, because VR is technically such a, I guess, remotely native technology where you think everything can be done remotely, but yet there's technical intricacies to make sure that is implemented properly into this environment. And it's just so cool to see it all happen.
Especially for fleet, right? I mean, you run into all nature of issues. I remember when like the Go landed, particularly Gear VR first, right? But really the Go, it was maturing. And there were businesses with like 30 of these headsets, and you're like, how do I get them set up? How do I get them deployed? How do I debug them? Like, how do I even just patch the things? I mean, people forget about like system administration and all of that stuff. So as the software has matured along the way, it's great because like what you're saying now is these turning points, right? For like, as you're saying, whole classrooms. Man, I'm honestly jealous that I haven't experienced that firsthand. So it's great hearing it from you because I sense the energy. And man, it just feels really invigorating to hear that, because I've seen people use like headsets for like school tours and kind of more architecture side things, but when it comes to actual learning and engaging with content, kind of like what Engage dreamed so many years ago, that's the part that's really cool. It's like kind of like when we started seeing tablets, and you think about, I used to carry a backpack that was like it was like a military pack. It was like many kgs of weight right on the back of kids. Definitely shouldn't have been carrying that much load, but like you're carrying textbooks. And then you see them come out, like Apple comes out with their tablet and other companies, and you think, oh God, now kids don't have to carry 17 textbooks anymore. What a great thing. And this is like the equivalent of field tripping, right? But like I can field trip to Mars if I want. Like it's so cool. So cool.
And also in education, right? One of the things I remember, like the teacher saying, like, you're gonna use this one day. And I remember being a smart ass and being like, I'm never gonna use this math skills. But it's one thing to say it and then immediately being shown an example in real time in a first person example and live the example. And I truly believe that's something that only VR can do. It's the reason why we believe in this technology so much, compared to people that don't really understand the implications of this technology. And as you mentioned, and I really wanted to shout out Pico on this, because I talk about this all the time, and it's accessing to the operating system. That's something that Pico themselves are doing compared to like companies like HTC or Meta. There's realities when it comes to integrating technology into environments. There is a final gatekeeper, and that's the IT department, right? And the IT department has a lot of adherences that they have to meet for security standards, right? One of them being data security and what's being done, traffic data. These headsets are manufactured overseas. There is a reality of unfortunate, data that gets trafficked and they can see it. So Pico, for example, what they're doing is they're giving and I think it's per case basis. I don't know how they do this, but the software partner is so large that Pico themselves is giving them access to the core OS, right? So they're tuning the operating system so deeply tuned that all of a sudden the conversations of, oh, well, my kid's data gets stolen, or any of those questions get completely plucked out of the equation because they control the data, they control the software. There's AMDM involved in the conversation, so everything is, to the adherence of the IT department. And that's the what I truly believe is going to be the missing, or rather the missing piece for adoption that's required. And the fact that there's a company in VR doing that should be commended, and hopefully other companies
That's
follow
a very
suit.
good point. That's a very good point. I deal with those standards in my day job every week, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And you're right, because if you're not able to kind of customize it to your ecosystem, to your network, and meet those standards, whether you're a supplier for somebody else or you're the end user, that bar just keeps going higher and more configured. So like. It's a very, very important point. I was going to ask you that question of when it comes to fleet adoption, like what headset are you seeing? So is it one of Pico's more recent headsets that you would say is at the moment the choice at the minute?
100%. The Pico Neo 3 Pros and the Pico 4 Ultra are, as I mentioned, we came into the 11th hour for this software company, and we've been working with them for about 2.5 months now. And as I mentioned, between 750 to 1,000 headsets a week. And as I mentioned, I coming in at the 11th hour with them, and I think I heard a number being like they floated like maybe like 40,000 units. So they're moving fast. It's really cool. Yeah.
I can
Hopefully
imagine.
I can talk about it later on.
Yeah,
But
no, it's great. I just that when you hear that, I remember back to like Virtual Umbrella when I was in the UK, and they would be setting up, as I said, like 30 headsets or something, and I was thinking, Jesus, 30 headsets. But now you're saying 1,000. Like I don't even want to think about the pain that goes into doing that process 1,000 times. Like
I'm so ready. That's my goal. That's exactly. A lot of people, my co-founders don't like me talking about that all the time because it scares people in the VR, especially in the VR industry specifically. But for those that seen, Ready Player One, I always say it all the time. IOI Industries, right? The main bad guys. They're not the bad guys. It's the CEO that's trying to take over everything, right? The company itself it's an XR MSP. They're an internet service provider. They build the infrastructure for the Oasis. It's just they got greedy, and I want to go after that. Like, did you say like how scary it is? Thousands of headsets. I want tens of thousands. I want to be able to ship these headsets everywhere. So, it's yeah.
well, damn.
We're ready. It's FReality, bro. Go big or go home, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you mentioned it, like even the I'll call it the lower level, education not companies, what's the term? Institutions out there, right? Like that idea of transporting you from the sticks to wherever you need to go with your education, like that's really important, and it's portrayed by that film quite well, and the book, of course. Anyway, quick shout to Rezal there for $100 donation. Thank you very much, Rezal. I'm gonna
say something about that. Good
tip
Lord.
my hat. Yeah, we don't usually, but that's a huge.
Is that a mistake extra zero on there?
Get a charge back.
That's our result. Thank you very much, Rez, for
supporting
us. He said, hope FReality and chat's having a great weekend. Definitely things are heating up in the VR space. So Jose, I didn't ask you, but just like highlights wise, doesn't matter if it's VR or flat or whatever, what you've been gaming on, like what do you have in that? It's been a little while since we last spoke.
Fancy.
Yeah, you got one of those.
Listen, I said go big or go home. It is.
What your persona looks like.
Is this yours then?
This is 100% mine.
Damn.
It is, but
I'll just pulled out an AVP, guys, just for those on
Apple Vision Pro. But I want to. Maybe I'll write a little quick buyer's guide for this. It is 100% pre-owned, used version. So I bought a 1 terabyte model, almost $1,000 less than than brand new.
That's great.
And so a lot of people have been scared of buying these products used because the light seal and the head straps are tuned to your face. But quick tip: go onto the official purchase, get the iPhone, do the face scan, add it to cart, and it will show you exactly all the right parts. And then you just go on eBay and order the right light seal, order the right head strap, and we call it a day.
Ah.
Were you someone else's persona when you put the headset on?
No, it was factory. Fortunately, the
That
guy
would've
that I
been
bought
funny.
it from was a seasoned Apple Vision Pro seller, so it was factory reset. It was cleaned up. He actually gave me the. He saw my email and he saw that I was really into VR, so he gave me the
case.
Cool.
the official case for free. So that was pretty
That's
dope.
cool. No, dude, that's awesome. And the thing is, you travel enough to make that thing
Yeah.
worth it. Like,
Oh, dude.
I assume you've just traveled with it, or did it stay home when you did
Oh,
your
I
trip?
did. No, it's probably it's gonna be as close as my underwear with me. It's gonna be with me at all times, always, always, always. But
It's so good.
I'll have more to talk about that maybe next podcast because it's only been
Sure.
a good 72 hours that I had with it. But early thoughts is I'm brain's completely rewired. I am so in love with it. I do know
Yeah.
I'm going through a honeymoon phase, but it's one of those VR related honeymoon phases where even with the Quest Pro, where I felt, or the XR Elite, where I felt like I was going because of who I am, wired. I wanted to love these devices so much, but I felt like I wasn't getting the love back. And the Apple Vision Pro is the first device where I feel there's love, like it's reciprocating something in a way that I haven't felt back in using a device since
Yeah.
the Rift S, maybe.
Man, I'm
When
gonna
it
give
just
you a
feels,
used copy of Karma Sutra, leave you two locked in a
yes.
room for a couple of
Dude.
days.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe next podcast, we'll get Rowdy to put like a jazz
Roadie.
background music. We'll make it a spatial audio.
See background. Dude,
Yeah.
like, but your shout about like secondhand tech, yeah, like again, I'm a very frugal dude. If I was going AVP, absolutely second, that secondary market. But I'm glad you mentioned about the interface and everything else because there's such a customization that goes with you getting one of those. I mean, it'd be the same if you were trying to get like a big screen beyond or something. You're like, oh, how do I even start up if I'm going to get this thing secondhand? Because it's not like another, product that everything is generic. So
You can even get a big screen
good
beyond,
tips.
like
Good tips.
the foam pads for the replacement for the big screen beyond.
Yeah.
They're purposely making those unavailable. So
Yeah, that'll be a topic for another day. But we're putting all these topics off. Don't worry, we're going to talk about something. I promise you. Well, that is great. I always love seeing a fellow tech brother getting his tech high. So enjoy that. And a couple of weeks ahead of love, I'd say. And I'm really keen to see what apps pull out for you. But for me, like from touching the thing for half an hour or whatever, it was like, oh yeah, so this really is like, it doesn't feel like this is a mobile phone on my face. It's like this is a computer, right? Like, and that's the feeling that was so exciting because it's like you feel the horsepower, right? Like the second you're in it. It's little things, but man, okay, very excited for you about AVP. Great. So up over next to Adam. We're only 20 minutes down now.
Good God.
So Adam's holding us as the back marker today, making sure no one falls off the bus. How's life down there in the land of green screens and glasses, Adam?
It's doing well. I actually have it's a tech, but specific view relating. And for those of you who went to MetaConnect, probably have known that my husband and I have been slowly getting into 3D printing. We gave out these cute little butt plugs that aren't butt plugs.
Jesus.
This one was a test print, so it's hard to see, but the ones I gave out were green. They were more bomb colored. And then they had like Atom Bomb body on the side, so it was super cute. But I had to give that warning because this is the first print, and I was like, oh, that looks that's an interesting shape. So let me give out the warning. I took the pressure out of everyone else. I'm like, it's not a butt plug, so that they didn't have to be awkward and feel like, should I say something? This is kind of phallic, or it's not phallic. I don't know.
Sure, that's not a lot of pressure. That's a tiny little thing. Can you say it again? Show it again.
They're small.
There's ridges. There's little ridges on it, which could be good or bad.
Okay, yeah, that's.
Spiky.
Oh no, the spiky part looked very unfriendly. It really did.
We might do some damage on the way up there. I would not recommend. But besides that weird piece, I mean, I say we, but he's mostly the print. I've been print that one. I've been like learning vicariously through him. But we've got like little articulated glow in the dark lizard thing. Yeah, it's so
damn.
Cool.
Damn! I remember you showed that. That thing is so sick. And it's how does it connect? I don't understand that. So
I've seen links.
Like, does it go in and turn, or like? I'm just wondering because the plastic, as far as I've experienced, the 3D plastic and 3D printed plastic generally isn't very malleable. It's quite firm. And so I was curious, how did the reticulating parts of this lizard, this gecko or whatever it is, how do they? Oh, they go in and then they
Chains.
twist.
Yeah.
Is it?
So it
Oh,
makes
it's
a
like a chain.
chain, like
Okay.
like a paper chain you made in elementary, or whatever. It does that, but
Yeah.
for the
Exactly.
3D prints, so that it can move around and stuff. But
That's
been
so
having a
rad.
lot of fun with it. We got like I forget what the name of the StarCraft creature skull this is. It's the one that looks like a
Oh,
The
naga snake.
yeah, I forget the name of
Uh,
it.
Hydralisk? No,
Rascalisk,
Actually,
something Lisk. Uh, yeah, something Lisk. I can't remember.
Hydralisk. That's a Hydralisk.
The
Yeah.
Hydralisk. Yeah. So you
Yeah.
got the
Yeah. Yeah.
skull, and then we got
That's
a little
sick.
unicorn skull thing. But we've
That's awesome.
had a lot of fun with this thing. And what I
And
want to do is I found out that there's maybe not a lot, but there's a couple of VR apps where I can maybe make like a object file and convert that into like an STL that maybe I can print. And so I'm going to quote Jose with this little guy. I want to see
yeah.
what kind of
ooh.
really messed up stuff I could make because I am not an artist, like freehanding shit. So it's got to be really bad. We're going to see some cursed 3D prints.
Describe what you just showed, because there's audio listeners who are
Yes.
like,
Oh,
they
sorry.
keep showing us stuff, but don't say what it is. What is it?
It is
What's in your hand?
the MX ink combo. So this is the Logitech pen that you can attach, or not attach, but via Bluetooth with your Quest. So you can be able to draw, or in my case, use it to model,
Scribble.
I suppose. Yeah. And
Doodle.
again,
That's so
I'm not a good freehand drawing person, so it's going to be interesting on what comes out of this. Probably terrible, but I'm really excited because I've never, I don't know, I've never tried something like this, like being able to have an actual pen in VR with you to draw with. But I feel like maybe that'll make it easier, unless you're using prefab shapes or something. But
Do you have any
boring.
exposure to like Wacom tablets, like
Yeah,
things
I
like that?
did a long time ago. Like I had
Yeah.
a pretty small one that's like now somewhere collecting dust in a closet. But I don't know. It's different because I like the feel of like pressure, on the paper of knowing, okay, this shade's going to be lighter or darker. And so I think
Yeah.
I had that problem with my tablet, but it was an older one. So I'm interested to see how well this one works when it comes to like the feel of drawing, because to me that's really part of it, to know if it like I'm shading it correctly or what. So, I don't know. A lot of weird physical nuances, kind of like
Hmm.
I equate them almost to like haptics, like that was my skepticism with hand tracking before, is like I need the feedback of knowing that I'm doing something right. And so we'll see with this pen how well I like it, and I'll try to show some examples of the really horrible, truly awful things I'm sure that are going to be coming out of the first iterations
So
of
your
stuff.
plan is to what? Start in VR, design something, then
Print it.
inevitably 3D print it.
Yeah. It's like I'd be
That's
like,
cool.
I made this in VR and now it's a physical object. It's not great, but it's a start.
That feels like a piece of a Star Trek dream maybe I had years,
Yeah.
20 years ago or something. Because you're like, you start see them, they're just fabricating things, and they're like, give me a burger, and you just have a burger. And I saw
yes.
something this week where they were 3D printing meat
There's
protein
food
essentially.
3D printers that I mean
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
I don't know.
that'll be awesome. One day, I'm sure that'll be pretty cool. But right now, it's this kind of scary thing. But like for
Well,
art and creative stuff,
there's the
it's cool.
one-touch pancake maker. I don't know if you've been to like hotels and then the lobby they
It's a
have like the
one-touch
one-touch pancake.
pancake. I've never
Yeah, it's
heard of
like it
that.
just puts
Yep.
it does the batter and then it makes a pancake. So it's kind of like a food
Oh,
3D
right.
printer, sort of.
Kind
like
of. Yeah. So you just fill it with batter and you press it, it does it, but it knows the timing. So out
Yeah.
comes the perfect pancake. Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's hotel quality pancakes,
Perfect.
but
Pancake.
okay
Pancake.
enough.
Oh, God. See, anytime I think of pancakes, you think of course, like pancake lenses, right? But no, I go further back. My wife is known for making great breakfasts, right? And like
Oh,
pancakes and waffles and stuff. But one time she brought me a set of pancakes. I was doing a Rift S thing. Sorry, no, CV1. The CV1 was coated in kind of a fabric, and a fork hit this little cup of maple syrup, which flung into the air, and it went all over my headset. So I
oh
have this like
no.
permanently sticky, CV1 wrapper, which I have inevitably sold off. And I remember the eBay guy's like, "What the fuck's up with this?" And I'm like, "I said it in the description." He's like, "No, you didn't." And I'm like, "Check the art." And he's like, "Oh yeah, you did. Sorry."
Oh my
Like my kids had
god.
drawn on it, had maple syrup on it. Like that CV1 was loved.
Ew. Maybe you could scrap it for I don't even know if you could scrap it for parts really, but
I don't
that's
know.
Yeah.
nasty.
Yeah,
It's the
it's
fact
not
that the
great.
guy asked you what it was.
Why is it sticky?
that's I just imagine that. I wouldn't even want to know the answer. I would just get rid of it.
Just
Why
a
would you even?
flamethrower.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people
No,
just
but
invite themselves to information they don't need.
oh man. I just think back to Jurassic Park and that like mosquito falling into the amber. Like maple syrup. I mean, I love Canada for everything, but like maple syrup is horrible when it comes to tech. Keep it the feck away from your tech because I've had it in keyboards and it like the keyboard was never the same again. You know, it's like there's
Oh.
no way. Like, I never found a good way to clean those things. It's really weird.
I have to say, I'm sorry for interrupting, but that's the most Canadian.
Really?
That was the most Canadian thing you've ever said, Zim. Like that's
Captain Canada.
yeah, that
Captain
was
Canada. Well, I'm
yeah,
trying to
that
get
was
there. I'm trying to
I
get
love
there.
it.
Trying to get there.
Dude.
Oh God. All right. So you've got your 3D prints, your hazardous 3D prints, I should say, the geckos and all that, and then now you're trying to kick off with artwork. Is that what you would consider your highlight then, Adam? Anything else you've played or toyed with in the last couple of weeks?
I want to get Jose in a scary game. I very quickly. I played recently. The name has changed a couple times. It's real stupid. It's called Horror Simulator, but sometimes it's Horror Simulator Co-op, and sometimes it's Horror Simulator Multiplayer. Like they keep changing
That's
the name.
The name of the game?
Yeah. So the name is
Horror
terrible.
Simulator. Oh
Horror
my God, it's a
Simulator.
horrible name. Yeah.
Damn, I thought you were gonna say something fun. Like,
Well, but see, okay, this is like it's like Phasmophobia light. Like it's Quest, first of all, so
Okay.
you know it's not as hardcore graphics, and the tools I feel like are easier to understand. You know, but I'm like maybe we can get Jose in. I'm trying to think of like Jose-friendly horror games.
I'm gonna be like the meta avatar pose that they're doing for the new one with like all Superman like.
Oh.
I'm ready.
Sadly for this one, I use Ready Player Me avatars, so you wouldn't even
Aw,
be able to
man.
be you.
Oh,
The
man.
closest that we can get is there's like a black guy avatar.
I'm ready. That's close enough. I'll take it.
So the whole I need to crack into this. I don't understand it. Like, why is everyone showing off their meta avatars? So what basically happened for anybody who isn't up on this, the old avatar system, which has actually gone through, I think, 1 or 2 revisions previously, has just gone through another overhaul. They mentioned it at MetaConnect, and just a couple of days ago it dropped. And so I've seen, like Jose, the thing you just spoke about, I saw you drop on Twitter, your new look, but everyone's dropping their new look. What inspires people to do that? I don't understand. Like
for me, it was the pose. Like they have this like superhero like I'm ready for war. Like let's go.
It's very true. When you said that, I was like, yeah, they all have that like hip out, like yeah. But I think it's a good improvement. I mean, it's an improvement for sure. Like I feel like all of our avatars matured like by a few years, and not in a bad way, but we look like more adulty and less so like cartoony kids. So
fair point. Yeah, fair point. The thing that they kind of surprised me, well, maybe it didn't surprise me from a technical perspective, but just the way they presented, they're like, oh, by the way, your face is changing. Like there was like, as far as I could see, there was no, it was a forced conversion. There was no like, hey, do you want to save your old look? It was like, hey, guess what? Your face can be this, this, or this. They give you like 3 options, like start here and then customize. The customization part was kind of fun, and there's loads of things that you can bedazzle yourself with. I'm pretty vanilla as usual, so I was like, okay, whatever, just let me get through this process so I could play Golf Plus. But yeah, so when I saw everyone sharing on Twitter and stuff, I was like, is it because it's funny? Is it because like I just didn't quite I need someone to unlock for me like the why everyone's sharing their like, and then how I
combination
suppose,
like
off your phone. I
for
guess.
me it was like how accurate. I didn't say this, but I was like, I wonder if people are going to say this actually looks like me, you know, because we're always biased. Like if you try to make yourself in a character creator, you're like, yeah, this looks just like me, and then the boobs are like huge, and it's like you're like really glamoured up.
Happens to me all the time. Yeah.
So I was curious. I'm like, okay, is this? I wonder if people are going to say, "Wow, that looks nothing like you," or "That looks exactly like you." Because there were some that I was like Skivas. I was like, "Holy crap!" Like it was spot on. Like
yeah, they're getting pretty close. I thought Jose wasn't bad either, right?
They made my hair look right. They made
glamorous.
My hair look gorgeous.
Very glamorous
hair. Man, I want that hair. Man, I've been trying to get that hair for years now.
That's why you need a stylist every morning when you wake up. That's the thing. But okay, so all right, so Meta's done their overhaul, and everyone's had their look. The thing I would say is, I've always found their avatar systems to be a bit like ageist, if I was going to call it that. So like, it feels like you can look young or you can look old, but the middle part, like if you're in your 30s or your 40s, it's like, good luck to you, you know, because like you're either going to look like a just young 20 something or other, or you're 50, 60, you know, like there's no
What's
There's
weird
no
is
in between.
like what's the youngest age for kids on the Quest again now? Is
10
it?
at the moment.
But like, so how are they? They're gonna look all like adults.
That's a
I
good
guess
point. There should be like a kid version. I don't know. Is there like a
maybe,
short
but then are they gonna
stature
be
version
targeted? Like if you're
that
a
like
kid
wins like Odd
avatar,
Job? Like you get to be a smaller hitbox and everything, like in GoldenEye? That would be
it's an
amazing.
advantage.
Everyone starts running around as oh wait, that's gonna open up a
Yeah,
whole dark.
like
Yeah, I was gonna
I,
say.
I could see like as a kid you'd be like, oh
Okay.
man, I want to be represented as me, but then as an adult, it's like,
It's an old
maybe
lady.
safer. Maybe it's safer that you all look the same so you don't get
Yeah.
targeted. I don't know.
Where's the like someone said smug and sassy in chat. I agree. That's definitely the default look. But like where's the curmudgeonry? Where's the like years of beaten down by corporate slavery? Like where's that? I want that filter to be put on my character.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. So that's an aside. Let's see. I'm trying to track this back now. So aside from the avatar and the 3D printing, Adam, was there any other highlight thing that you were saying? I've lost
Nah,
my
nah.
train of thought. You're
I'm
good.
good.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Cool. So, chat, I want to thank you for coming out to the live show again. There's nothing like catching us live. I mean, it's the only way. Watching us live is the only way to hear what inevitably cancels and take us off the air for good. You won't want to miss experiencing that firsthand, now would you? Who knows? Maybe that could be today's episode. For my highlight, I've got like a quick trio, 3 little mentions. As there's 2 games I have to mention, and then there's one that'll lead us to perhaps getting into a fire starter for today's programming. First up, I had the chance encounter at Connect to meet many developers, but in particular, a pair who, and I never like being in this spot where you meet some developers, you know the game name, and you know you didn't play it. In this case, it was Starwave. So I hadn't played Starwave, met the 2. I was like, I bet I know the kind of game you 2 would have made. You kind of get the look at the people and you
Starwave.
kind of make
Is that the
a judgment.
rhythm game that's like stick?
That's it. Well, hopefully Rowdy can show the trailer that I fed him in a moment. But it's basically a flow state similar to Tetris Effect, Beat Saber, and Synth Riders all compressed into one package. So with like colorful space-centric visuals, this composition like had me feeling like Harry Potter became a space cadet and wanted to drift among the cosmos. So yes, it's a rhythm exercise game, I would call it. It's got you waggling at comets and creating this symphony of fireworks for a dazzling display, just like right in front of your eyes. It's available on standalone, so you can get it on Quest, as well as some other platforms. But I found Starwave to be honestly just a fun time. I played it for myself, just yesterday, and really enjoyed it. So I'm gonna definitely show that off on a future stream. But it's got that kind of Thumper-esque element to it, where as you're playing the game, unlike the very chopped up trailer, which I think was poor production, by the way, it's like show the flow of your game. It's okay, we get it. Someone's in the headset. Don't chop it up into 60 little pieces. But that trailer shows you kind of this cascade of you hitting various, I don't remember what they were called, star clusters or whatever, and then you get to a point where like a constellation animates. So once you get enough points, this constellation comes to life. And in the trailer, I think they showed a moth or a bat or something, and it's really nice to play. It like feels great. I love the visual symphony of like fireworks going off in front of you, and it just feels like a feel good game. The only part I didn't like so far is there's like a beat multiplier. You get this in drumming games where an orb shows up in front of you, in this case a comet, and you're supposed to hit it as much as you can to kind of spit it up, give it as much energy as possible. Yeah. And I always feel like that risk killing like as fast as you possibly can just feels to me like it's gonna cause me problems when I'm an old man. Like that's gonna come back and hurt me. But excuse me. And so that's Starwave. So I just wanted to say, it was very nice meeting the devs. I saw their logo all over Connect. It was very effective. The sticker that was really shiny. It was perfect, I think, as the choice thing. But then I got to play their game, and I really found it to be a good time. So that's Starwave. So that was that one. Have you tried that one, Adam? I wasn't sure because you seemed to know which one it was anyway.
No, I had heard of it, but maybe it was because of the trailer. I was like, I'll pass, which is unfortunate, because the way you're describing it, I'd give it a shot, but it just didn't. It looked too starry and generic, and I couldn't tell if it was like a rhythm game or like a thumper type of a thing. Like, I don't know.
Yep, I would say just like Audica or Synth Riders, after you'd done, like Beat Saber, and you said, oh, here's a derivative. It's enough unique in the feel of how the game progresses and plays and the environment that I would say people should check it out. Like they should take the time to go play it. So if you're a fan of that genre of game so far, and I've only played it for maybe 45 minutes or so, but I would definitely say take the time to check it out. It's not a generic mess or anything. The trailer didn't really do it justice, is my opinion.
Fair.
So that's Starwave. Next, we've got to move on to the confessional part, my guilty pleasure. This one I do specifically for Jose. So from a handheld gaming perspective, which is I was in my favorite place in the whole wide world, which is the gaming bargain bin. So this is something that I do a lot. A lot of people know me for this. I'll wait years with something on my wish list or whatever, and then it pops up and it's like, this thing is $3. And I'm like, yes, and I play it, and I'm like, holy shit, this game is like my new favorite game. So in this case, that was Darkest Dungeon. So it's a 2015 classic. Honestly, I thought this came out like 2-3 years ago. I didn't realize that much time had passed. Thank you, COVID. The game is simply brutal. I mean, what do you want when you come home after a long day at work? Of course, you just want a bucket of stress. And this game is just stress incarnate. So basically, it's a dungeon crawler where you adventure to different dungeons, and you're this group of like four turn-based warriors, all different classes, and they can be augmented almost like a Diablo character with little trinkets and boosts and buffs. And holy shit, this game is deeper than I think any like action RPG that I've played. Like the skill trees and all that go into it, and then the balancing act is just phenomenal. So like this whole thing is an amazing balancing act between tough as nails and still not quite frustrating enough to want me to set it down. So I found myself like up late at night for the last few nights just playing this game. It pairs incredibly well with the pitch black screen of my Steam Deck OLED. And my wife was like, ooh, that's pretty. Those colors are great. And I was like, yeah, see, this is what blacks are about. Like the fucking blacks of OLED. Holy shit. It's just so great. So like from a visual treat to the actual game design mechanics to it just being a really, really tough roguelite, it is incredible. And it's on sale on Steam for like $3 or something. It's nuts. So I'm well down that rabbit hole. If you're into that type of game, I'm on the constant trawling look for the right games for the Steam Deck for me. And maybe the last one was Dredge. This is the next one, Darkest Dungeon. Fantastic. Had to mention it. And now it just makes me, again, anytime I think of Steam Deck and I have it in my hands, I'm like, Deckard, Valve, when? Can we please have the Deckard now, please? I still wish that they would gazump one of, I don't know, Meta's announcements and do that thing they did a few years back by like announcing in tandem like they did back a few years ago now. I can't remember, was that the Rift S or Quest? Some big announcement. They basically announced the Valve Index at the same time, and it was great. Got everybody talking. So that's that one. Over to mixed reality. So this is the third little mention, and this one's where I'm expecting to do a lightsaber battle with Adam over this, but we'll see. Starship Home. So Starship Home is by Lovely Studio, the people over at Creature. This is a game about making your own room into a starship. So taking the advantage of like full color pass through in the Quest 3. I've been enjoying this in my own little dungeon, jetting off in search of botanical gardens beyond the Gardens of Babylon, and like cultivating this love of space and psychedelics. Honestly, if you thought games like Squingle were psychedelic, this game pushes that to the limit. Like, holy cow, I thought I was on acid. It's a trip, and a couple of hours in, I suppose my feeling was, okay, first off, the animations in the game, the way that the MR works is really good. The setup is all great. Their UI system has some really awful components to it, in that when you aim, for me anyway, when I'm trying to touch a button, like I'll be exiting the game mistakenly. I'll reset the MR setup again mistakenly. There's something about the organization of that UI panel that I found really disturbing. But the game itself, and like the way the plants are animated and the creatures and how everything ties together, it's wonderfully produced. Like the game is very well developed, and clearly in MR territory, which is still wrought with, bugs and some problems from an operating system level, not their fault, more so Meta's. I think they're doing the best that they can with the tools they have in that respect. And I found it was very entertaining for me for like upwards of an hour. After that point though, I felt like I was back in Asgard's Wrath 1 or Red Matter 2, where I'm like, oh, it's really pretty, but I'm doing the same grindy thing like just on repeat. So just to put that, and then I want to open to Adam to comment here because I think she enjoyed the game maybe more than I did. It's like you get a plant, you put it in a small pot, then you water the plant, then you put it in a big pot, then you fertilize the plant, then you put it on a plant harmonizer, and then you tune the frequency and you pull some weeds out. And that's it. That's it for like the first like 2 hours of the game. And I was just doing the little laps around my room. Like I'm just doing conveyor belt work now. It just did not feel fun to me. Like I really enjoyed what was there. The only relief from that was every so often I'd go down to a planet and they take me on this crazy visual trip, which, as I said, was something like Squingle, super crazy psychedelic visuals and gameplay that was kind of fun. That was my take. Was like it feels like very well developed, but wasn't as fun as I was expecting to have in that game. Adam, what was your take? Because I don't know. I'm just curious what you thought about Starship Home.
Yeah, I liked that game, but I think for me it was more about collecting the plants and being able to raise them in order to see those acid trips. So maybe I'm like a kind of like a drug addict where I'm like, I need my next fix. I need the next thing that's exciting. I did see your tweet, so I had a feeling that this was coming, and I didn't want to respond to your tweet. But I think you mentioned too about the characters, because when you place that, there's like a main window that you put on your wall. And that's kind of like how you make the ship go into hyperdrive and stuff. But I will agree that some of the characters have kind of an obnoxiously kiddie voice to them. I mean,
it seems purposeful though. It's exactly.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a poor audio recording. It just feels like Job Simulator didn't feel as condescending. This feels like I feel like I'm being talked to as an 8-year-old, and I get it. The Quest audience, like that makes sense to make games for those people, right? It does. But like as an adult, I'm like, okay, I got it. Stop talking to me this way. Like I want to punch the thing. I really wanted to throttle the little plant dude. And then you have 3 or 4 of these people. They're like a little cardboard cutout almost, like in a window, like you said in your Starship deck or whatever. But like I think you have to know going into the game, it's pretty damn cutesy. And this is coming from a guy who loves like Garden of the Sea. Like Adam and I think have similar affection for Garden of the Sea and how cute it is. This goes to that, a grating, kind of annoying talk to you as an 8-year-old level, and that's the part that for me kind of sinks it at least a point or two, but what did you find that so like gathering the plants was cool. The plants themselves were really awesome. The way they grow up is cool. The way you have to like weed them and water them, that's not too frequent, but it was pretty frequent. Like you're watering them pretty constantly.
Don't forget
you take care of real life plants.
The weird fertilizer phallic-y looking.
So long to figure out the fertilizer dudes. There's these dudes who look like if an alien pod, that the facehugger pops out of, if an alien pod had legs and that you would pick up as if it was like a salt shaker and then shake it onto your plants. That's how you fertilize the plants. It's fucking weird. That's fucking weird.
My favorite part. But sometimes, I mean, some of the faults I would say weren't necessarily on the game, but I did have problems where it's like, oh crap, I put my fertilizer aliens on this wall and my plants over there. So I feel like I'm carrying a very delicate plate of, a deck of cards, because you don't want to move your hand too much. Otherwise, the whole thing's going to go back into the wall and you have to go on that side to grab it again. So I'm like going from one side of my room to another, like, oh God, keep my hand in my eyesight. And but I wouldn't fault the game necessarily for that. That's more of just a hand tracking improvements thing. But I don't know. I loved the plants. I think I'm only got to, I think I'm like 75% of the way or something. So I'm waiting to see if maybe there is some kind of big thing at the end of the story and how many plants you actually get. Because I'm at like 4 or 5 now, and I'm like, holy crap! Like, how many plants are they gonna give me? When is my headset gonna explode?
What are the infamous devs behind the game? Mark Schramm, who I've been a big fan of his work in the space for years. Met up with him at Connect, and he commented back, and he was like, first half of the game is maybe a bit samey, and then it lightens up or kind of excites you a bit in the second half. And I've tried in multiple rooms in my house to get this working, and unfortunately, MR defects have stopped me. So like, for example, there's a hatch that you crank open and then you load things in and out to let things in and out of your spaceship to go out to space, like a lander pod that lets this little robot thing go down, collect the sample and come back. And it got stuck for me. It stopped functioning. And so I went to different rooms and I tried to set it up, and then it was like behind a wall, and things just, there are teething problems here in terms of the MR spatial setup, which I think have now stopped me from being able to progress in the game. And it's frustrating because I got past 50%, And I was like, I really wanted, particularly before this podcast, to be able to have done it, finished the whole thing. So if you're at 75%, Adam, is there anything outside of that loop that I described with the plants, like game design wise, that you think would maybe win me back over? Because I came here with an open heart and mind, really hoping to kind of love it again. Because what I see on YouTube is, unfortunately, what I call the Pepsi effect. A lot of YouTubers, no fault, it's part of the job, will dip in for an hour and that's all they ever see. They'll make their video, they'll have their remarks, and they're like, this is the best MR ever. It's not. It is my opinion. It really isn't. It just flatlines right in the middle of the game. So I'm hoping there's something at the tail end, and I'm hoping I can get there. But yeah, from your perspective, being at 75%, is there anything that you think will excite me?
Not yet, but I think for me it was mostly like what MR can be. Like, because we were used to just like, I mean, like I don't want to say bad about Hello Dot because it's a cool, but I'm thinking like MR experiences are like Hello Dot, where it's like you have a thing floating around and you can hit it, and that's mixed reality. Wow. So it's nice to see like an actual story, even if it's not completely deep
That's a
necessarily
fair point.
implemented
That's a
in.
very fair
And
point.
they chucked as much like my headset a couple times actually lagged with the amount of stuff that I had in my room, especially when
Yep.
there's a point where you can hit a button and that gives you like a view of different planets, almost like a very Star Warsy holographic thing.
Yep.
And my headset like always lags when I do that. It's just like, but it still functions. But I'm like, man, they really pushed this thing to see what they could get away with for sure when it comes to overlaying, virtual assets in your actual space.
And that must be such a pain in the ass to design for, because I noticed as I was moving objects around my room, like that giant holographic planet can shrink if you have a smaller play space, or if you put the projector in a different spot. It's smart, so it dynamically scales. So like there's a lot of, I'll call it vectorization and dynamicism in the way that they constructed that. So again, I have a lot of pride, is that the right word? Like for what they managed in respect of that whole software stack. But from a game perspective, unfortunately, I got to the point where I wasn't having fun, and that was pretty quick. So like, I know they've got it. I know they've got the skills to bring me what I'll call a fun experience. And like, I can even imagine something like a gadgeteer in that environment, right? Or something else but then there's something that's story led, like that soft spine behind it. It doesn't have to be super deep. And I would probably have gone a different direction with the in particular with the cast, like the narration in the game just was a little bit too little kitty for me. It should have been balanced up by 5 or 10 years, and I probably would have been fine with
or
it.
especially if you don't do the thing that he wants you to do, like the plant has a new dream, and then you're doing your own thing. The plant has a new dream, and I'm like, oh my god, I'll get to it. Like, please, I want to get out.
It sounds like Tamagotchi. That does not. I'm like listening to you guys talk about this, and none of this sounds fun. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's impressive. I will agree that story-wise it could be
Yeah.
better, but technically it is very well done. Like, even you can put, as long as you've labeled like individual pieces of furniture, like the potted plants and the little watering can, if you put them on your furniture, it actually has a shadow that goes underneath those objects, which is
I
really cool.
I was pretty surprised at that. So first off, I'll say this: since the more recent versions of the operating system for MetaQuest, my Quest 3 will map a room. It knows all the objects. I have not had to do like object tagging in the last 3 months. It just does it for me. Same thing. I walked upstairs, mapped my space. And again, when those shadows were casted, it brought me straight back to the Apple Vision Pro, because that's what you saw in the Vision Pro. You saw this nice little shadow that as the object gets closer in proximity, the shadow darkens, and it's a very impressive effect. For those who got into VR in the early days, we went from, I can't run this game because, with shadows, to running it with shadows. And the amount of difference in terms of feeling present, shadows make a big difference for VR. And then frame rate makes another big difference, which Rowdy used to talk about a few years ago about how important that is. So, if you're playing a game at 72 hertz versus like 120, it is leagues different in terms of the feel. And that's some of the permanence and the kind of horsepower part that, Jose, I'm sure you're excited about and diving into with the AVP, because
that's exactly. I
didn't
want to be
feels
that
like
guy.
it's there.
I literally heard Adam talking about the headset, chugging, and I was like, I was just messing around, had like 400 screen tabs on Microsoft Edge around me just to make it lag, and it's hard. It's exactly that. That's where CPU architecture comes in. But I wanted to ask you guys, is this a full-fledged retail product?
Yep. Yeah.
Like it's for sale?
Yeah, it's not a beta. It's not a beta. It's
That's
out.
remarkable. That's insane. I think that's, if anything, that's the I don't think I've seen or heard of any other like big mixed reality room scale buy purchasable game, right?
Oh God, what else is there? I mean, there's a lot of games that dipped into it. There
Yeah, they
was
do
that
both.
piece with, didn't Retropolis do something that was MR related as well? We had Shell Games and their pieces. A lot of them are demo-y though.
Or demoing,
The next one that I know that's
Oh,
coming
Living
is
Room.
Spatial Ops. What was
Living Room is another one. That's the
one.
animal-based
Yep.
one. That's all MR. There's no VR portion.
Okay.
Yeah. But like, yeah, the thing is like, these are pioneers. So like you have to give them props to say
Yeah.
like, this is pioneering. You're probably not going to get the full cake perfect. And if my cake tastes a bit salty, or there's too much baking powder in it, or you just added too many walnuts, like fair enough. Like bake another cake. Or maybe, tune the cake. Okay, I'm going to stop with this analogy now. But point being, it is worth your time checking out Starship Home. I just, yeah, I'm looking forward to whatever they do next. And I'd love to see an adult project from them. That sounds wrong, but you know what I mean? Like something
I'm
that's
sure it's
geared
out there.
more
Or
towards
do the DLC, Starship Home Adult Edition DLC, just redub the voices and audio and everything. That'd be cool.
All the plants are phallic.
There we go.
Wonderful. Just wonderful. All right. Well, with that, let's move on to the news proper. First off, catching people up who maybe skipped our last cast, which was the poolside with Nathy at MetaConnect. I'm just going to summarize the news there. So MetaConnect, very simple. Orion is their AR glasses of the future. Saw that in the thumbnail today. Then we've got Meta AI that continues to evolve and take leaps with new models. Meta Ray-Ban's smart glasses partnership with Meta is strengthening. And again, Meta's doing Meta there. Extra software updates coming, continue to come, additional things like setting time and all this stuff. You can look at patch notes if you want to know specifically what's come to your new glasses. I think that's the most exciting product that dropped last year. And finally, what I call the Christmas killer is the MetaQuest 3S landing October 15th, currently open for pre-orders. $299 for the 128 gig SKU and 256 gigabyte SKU available at $399. But if you're thinking about a Fresnel lens headset with that lower resolution, then pull a Jose here. Consider like the refurbished, especially the official refurbished stock that, well, as Meta clears out its Quest 3 like 128 gig SKU, or maybe a 256 that was returned and refurbed or whatever, because you can get it around that same price. I think if you're going for the 3S and you're like, I'm gonna put my feet in and test VR for the first time, then that 128 gig SKU is like the one to do. It just makes so much sense. It's where Quest 2 killed, and in the money from back then, this is like the cheapest VR headset we've had. It's like the equivalent of a $250 headset in previous year's money, like when the Quest 2 landed. So this is ridiculous value. And then it's just a question of, does the headset have any kind of long form problems? We'll see that through reviews and stuff that drop about it. But I think it's a really great option, especially if you're into VR already and you're like, hey, maybe I want to pick up my spouse a headset. Maybe they're not into it yet, because you've got media consumption, things like Netflix and stuff you can do on it. Productivity, right? You can do it with the right head strap. You can get a couple of hours of productivity out of it. You're probably not going to be doing all day. But the one thing I would say about all of that and MetaConnect and all that is that honestly, leaks are seriously annoying to me. I understand it's probably a corporate tool rather than anything else, and that's the standard going forward. Fair enough. I'm glad that at least some things were not leaked, but I would just love if we could return to a time when our Christmas presents weren't opened for us. I really, really would. But that brings us on to a very interesting, I'll say the titular moment of today's podcast, the Boz Palmer apology. So out of the blue on September 30th, Palmer dropped an image onto his Twitter, an image in a color-popping Hawaiian t-shirt. Very svelte, lovely looking style that Lucky's sporting. I don't know how he continues to pull off the sandals and bright t-shirt look, but I think it honestly looks really good on him. But what also looks good on him is the Orion glasses he was wearing. And so for everybody else who had in the tech world gotten an option to get the demo, the question was, and we were saying it there on site when we were there at Connect, is Palmer here? Was he invited? Is he allowed to come on campus this year? Like, what's the deal? Because in past years, he's actually been able to come along, even after being ousted from, Facebook Oculus by Facebook all those years ago. But in a really interesting twist, it's a major deal for those of us who've been in the space for a decade. Boz came out, so Andrew Bosworth, CTO in Meta, came out and said to Palmer's tweet, he said, "I'm glad you came by." I'm just going to read this out verbatim. "I'm glad you came by to check out Orion. I mentioned this in person, but I also wanted to publicly apologize for my previous comments about your time at then Oculus. I'm sorry. After reading the recent tablet piece," just a quick side, there's an article online you're going to want to check out, "I dug into some of the events that preceded my time when a different set of people who are no longer at the company were running this group. It turns out I was misinformed, but that's no excuse, and since I wasn't involved, I should never have said anything. I'm grateful for the impact you made at the company and in developing VR overall. Looking forward to showing you more of our work in the future." So first off, that was a big deal. Big deal for two reasons. Number one, it's not often that Meta, and I'm going to say this, Meta's legal team allow public comments, right? They've been like, in the days of like CV1 and Rift S, we were like, say anything. Spokesperson, like they kicked Palmer out the door. Then they didn't have a spokesperson for years, and inevitably we ended up getting kind of Boz in that seat, really making the comments. And then Zuckerberg to some extent himself, from the top of the company making comments. Palmer responded to this, by the way, saying, "Thanks, Boz. Apology accepted. I am infamously good at holding grudges, but Meta has changed a lot over the past 8 years. The people responsible for my ouster and internal and external smear campaign aren't even around anymore. At some point, the ship of Theseus has sailed." And just for those who don't know the reference about ship of Theseus, this is a book, final book by the author, about a man with no past being shanghaied onto a strange ship with a monstrous crew and launched onto a disorienting and perilous journey, which sounds exactly what Palmer's been through with his whole Anduril recovery and building a new company and all of that. So, with that said, great to see the U-turn. Very heartening to see almost the VR family at large kind of give itself a bear hug to some extent. I'm glad that allowed Palmer to see it. They had nice things to say. I won't read all the tweets, right? But there's like a back and forth between them. We saw Carmack comment about it. Like we've had previous comments from Zuckerberg about Palmer as well. So like it looks like finally they're back on speaking terms, obviously on demo terms as well. I haven't yet heard from Palmer what his particular opinion, his views are on this tech, but it sounds like it's kind of in the direction that he wanted to go anyway. And he's kind of putting wind into the Meta sails now, which is very interesting. It's somewhat alien for me to see it because they've been almost warring factions for so many years now, that I'm just very glad to see it. And I think it's in both of their interests and certainly in the interest of the industry that all the big boys are getting along. So I just want to say good on you, Boz. Great to see Meta's big shift in their approach. And I hope this openness to public comment is something that their team are taking seriously because it just feels right. And it's so much better than the void that we were getting for a number of years.
I want Daddy and Daddy to stop fighting.
Literally.
Yeah.
But it was really good to see.
What did you think about that? Yeah.
I didn't look at the comments because sometimes Twitter comments scare me a little bit, but I really hope that most people are like, oh, good, this apology was needed. I'm glad you apologized, or good. But because there always gonna be some people that are like, oh, this is inauthentic and part of Meta's marketing plan, which maybe it is, but it still needed to be done. Like, it is a big step that this was even said at all publicly. So like, let's just take the small wins as they come instead of always being so negative about like, well, this is an ulterior motive for something else, or someone's always going to be political in there. Usually,
internet pretty much almost always goes that way. Yeah, I agree.
It's good. This is it makes me happy to see because it's always felt kind of awkward, or
Well, to push back on what you're saying, Adam. That to be fair, there was quite a large amount of poisonous things said on Palmer's end too. So there is a validity to people to see this as a stunt. I'm one of them, to be quite honest. Like, there are 3 large companies in the last 6 months that are putting out let's say a long-term vision that could potentially disrupt the long-term vision that Meta's going after. We just mentioned Pico is one of them. Palmer literally 3 months ago endorsed the Visor by Renji Biboy with the Immerse team. So there's a lot of reasons why this public apology had to be said publicly after it was said personally. I also, to be quite frank, I consider myself new blood in this industry. I don't care about the old guard and the old blood. I'm grateful for them. I mean, our pioneers are called pioneers for a reason, but I don't like the idea of pioneers going like, "Hey guys, remember I did that thing 10 years ago." Like, I don't care. Like, I don't care. That's honestly, I wish I could say that in a kinder way, but I just don't care. Like, Palmer's not a VR person anymore. He's not. I don't care about his opinion. He's a military industrial guy. I do care about his opinions of what VR could be, but when it comes to him dictating what it should be, I just same thing with Boz, right? Great innovator, great marketer. Show me people that are in the thick of it right now. Carmack too. Like, the guy's in AI. He left VR years ago. So
that is true, though. It's kind of like when people bring up like live streamer drama, and I'm like, I don't. That's cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, don't get me wrong. I do appreciate like what they have done to get us to this point. But yeah, otherwise it's just kind of feeding on drama, maybe, or I don't know. But that's social media too. I don't know if that's going to be ending anytime soon.
Yeah, I suppose my perspective with like founding folks, 10 years is a pretty long time, right? But I think there's a need to it for continuity for some of us that were bought into a vision early on about dreamers, and then seeing those dreamers kind of comment on or at least be participant to whatever the next dream is that we're building feels like a continuation of the story instead of starting a brand new chapter. And
but are they participating?
It's probably comfortable to some degree,
I
don't think that
are they
would be.
participating?
I don't think I have enough information to be able to comment on that, right? I mean, usually what happens is the interaction happens behind the scenes for years before a product then comes out. Someone's on a board, someone's in a consulting position, someone's involved simply because it's inspiring for them to be part of it. So I suppose what I'm saying, Jose, is maybe in contrast to you, I care about the founders because the lineage of the story to me is part of why I love being part of it as well. Like, I mean, from that extent, I'm an old guy in this space. It's like, and I like that. I like that story. I like where it was. And even if those guys who were once on top are no longer, it's still neat to kind of see the world through their lens to some extent. And so when they're not allowed to kind of be at the round table, that just irks me. And so this is one of those things lifted and taken off. So it's a bit like, okay, there's a bit of pressure that's now out of the system, whether it's a stunt or not, I don't care. I'm totally nonplussed about that. But like them just communicating is feckin' healthy for Meta because they didn't in the past do this well. And I feel like, I don't know if it's Zuckerberg maturing or the company as a whole become like realizing that, if we're open with our systems and our approaches, and I've seen this in my personal engagements with them, like the future is brighter for us if we're not so shut off. And I think that they're doing that right. So I actually saw that in Apple, and I've seen them follow Apple's like trend for the past like 7 to 9 years. This is just another one, in my opinion. They're doing the same thing. Like, let's be wholesome. Let's be open as we're able to be. And then let's leak our products before they come out, except for the ones that we don't want to leak. Like that's the part that pisses me off. But I know it's all business and marketing, and they have reason for it. And if I was in their seat, I'd probably do the same thing. I can just grumble as a consumer who likes having his Christmas morning. So anyway, that's Palmer, Boz, right? Those two are now tied up going to prom. I don't know. Maybe we'll see some collaboration between them in the future. But Jose, like you said, this is, I really would doubt, with Palmer being a case of once bitten, twice shy. Like, I wouldn't imagine him working directly with Meta again after all the hell that went down. Like, why would you?
I mean,
why would you invite that?
he get a pretty big check for being pushed out of the company, and I'm pretty sure Meta didn't give him all that money up front. He's probably still getting that money. So the realities are, you don't, there's a powerful saying, you don't F with the money, right? So if he is going to be working with a VR company, it should be the company that gave him financial freedom to build his second opportunity. And I just want to quickly add, because I don't want to have my words misconstrued. I love all our OGs and pioneers in VR. And you said it yourself, it's having the space at the table. They left the table. Palmer's a great example. Right. He was pushed away. There was probably non-competes there. So he's a rare exception to the conversation, but the whole Boz apologizing publicly after he apologized to him personally. If I'm Palmer, that took away the realness of the apology. I don't like, as I mentioned, I like people in the VR industry to stay in the VR industry. My opinions on Carmack would have been different if he would have been in the VR industry today.
Right, exactly. I just keep it, well, yeah. Carmack is like a tornado, though. That's the only thing I'd say. Tracking him for years since my Quake days, like he moves on one project and then he moves completely. Everything about him just shifts to another set of problems. Whether it's rockets or I don't think it's money that drives him. I think it's the passion of something new and nascent and then he moved over to VR. We were lucky to have him for as long as we did. It resulted in Quest and other things that I think have done very, very well to help proliferate, the magic of VR. And, I get that he had to move on. AI is, how could you not fall into the gravity well of AI? Hell, we've lost Rowdy to it. So,
Rowdy, you traitor!
Rowdy.
We could Rowdy. Yeah, sorry, Rowdy.
That's why we replaced him.
Gotta pronounce it. Rowdy's the AI tech bro. Is that it? That's
yeah. That one likes VR. That one has the right prompts. We removed AI from the conversation from Rowdy.
Oh, that's wonderful. All right. So, any other thoughts on the meta news? Otherwise, I'll move on to another piece.
Move on.
Okay. So next one's a little bit about wearables. This one is scary. Okay. This one scares me, and I'm going to call this the stalker's delight. Okay. I caught this from Jose. Although I must say, Jose, Jesus Christ, man, you post so many retweets. I was like, I wrote this down in my notes. I'm like, oh, he posted this Thursday. This should be feckin' easy to find. And then I'm going through like 300 tweets. My God, dude, I had no idea you were such an outputter. But anyway, pulled this out from the ether. Quick summary. Meta Ray-Ban glasses, right, have been coupled with some software. And I just want to say, this isn't like specific to this, but I'm going to focus on this for a moment, then I'll apologize after I shoot it. So Meta Ray-Ban glasses can be used to pick up the face of a person on the street, walking around, any individual. It passes it to a facial recognition tool called PimEyes, and then that helps to identify the individual. URLs associated with that, kind of think image search, are passed to an LLM, which infers the name and sends that site to scrape then phone number, address, family members. So the problem here being that anonymity on the street is dying very fast. And I know we've seen this where someone, for example, faked their own death, was found out in Brazil because of a Facebook post or something like, we've seen stuff like this happen before. But I think those gold digger ladies should get excited. You'll be able to find your man much easier in the future. You just have the glasses, walking around, salaries popping up over people's heads. Like, this is coming very fast, and it's a little bit intimidating. Now, as a bit of a flash in the pan here, someone obviously did this with the Ray-Ban Meta Smart glasses. And Meta's response to this, to the person who had posted this on a particular site called 404 Media, had said, well, this could really be possible with any device that has a camera. And it's like, yeah, fair enough, Meta, but in this form factor, most people don't see the cameras, right? They don't notice that people are, and you can walk around and you could just like spot someone. Now, I don't know what the time from detection to you've been doxed now, I know your address is, but my concern there is lonely guy walks into a bar, views a pretty lady, follows her home, right? Like, that's the concern in my head immediately. Obviously this is going to be pretty cool if you're able to walk around and maybe there's some kind of a permissions based thing that springs up and we're able to actually kind of no contact, so that awkward barrier of introducing yourself to people kind of falls away to some extent. You almost know who they like, you know how to address them at first, might make us more efficient as a populace. But yeah, the dark side of this is like a Black Mirror episode. So what do you guys think about this tech coming? Excited about it? Scared about it? Gonna go find your next date?
Like, I mean, I think like you can literally, like you said, you can do this on literally any other device. And so many people have their phones out scrolling or taking pictures or whatever. So yeah, I guess the glasses are a little stealthier. But how many people do you see walking out with their just cell phones out too? So it could really be either or. And
Do you mean like from a shoulder surfing? Do you mean like I can tell who you are because I see your name on your Facebook page as you're browsing it? Or do you mean just that someone else could pop and grab your face and figure who you are?
To the point that the glasses are like a stealthier way of doing this versus your phone. But honestly, how many people do you see looking at their phones and you're like, oh, they're probably searching me? Also, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it's necessarily stealthier because phones are so common.
Never, Adam, never.
But also, like to mention having this information available as a benefit. I don't like that either because part of the human connection is asking questions and getting to know them without having preconceived notions of like, oh, this person works for Meta. I know this now, so I'm going to act differently. Like, what if you didn't? And then you became best friends and later on you learned they work for Meta, but now you know like, oh, they're a really great I'm just as saying that, not that people from Meta are terrible, but like as coming up with an example, you know, of like too many people have those preconceived notions that can really affect the way that they will then interact with somebody when it may be a totally different outcome had you not known that.
Well, for example, political views could spring up next to you, right? Like you could have a tag against your head. It's like, this is a Republican. Here's a Democrat, you know?
Yeah. I can't wait to like the pen testers in the chat commenting on it, but this technology is so mature that the fact that we're talking about it from a little demo like this, nobody there's cameras everywhere outside of our phone cameras. We're talking about rear view cameras in cars, ATM machines. I used to do a lot of InfoSec pen testing for a bank years ago, and we had instances where people were putting cameras on the ATM machine that do nothing but read the cards that are being put on the card. And nobody even knew that it was being recorded. There's so many stealth cameras in the world that people don't realize that their job is to do nothing but data gathering. In Times Square, that's a really big problem in the police force. There's a company called Watchdog. They have these literal detectors that they give the cops when they're walking in alleyways and in certain environments where there's not a lot of people, just to make sure that there's no cameras in these places. And they find cameras all the time. Wow. It is when it comes to visual security, it's broken. Like in fact, we have way more camera surveillance than probably any other country in the world. And the reason that we know that is because we're having this conversation right now where the idea of being surveyed scares us. That's how well it's hidden, right? There's other countries where the cameras are put in your face and that conversation.
The UK is one. If you're in London ever and you just see like it looks like a traffic light set of like 16 different types of detectors. They've got nuclear and radiation levels and gas,
infrared now too. Nobody knows. They can see through your clothes now.
I suppose the question is, what you're saying, Jose, is the ship has sailed, right? Like privacy, anonymity.
There's no such thing as privacy.
Anything about anyone. If somebody, God forbid, that doesn't jinx me now, but God forbid, if somebody wanted to stalk me, they don't need a camera to do it. You could just look someone up online.
That's the scariest part. It's the connection, the algorithmic pattern connection that they'll be able to use to connect anonymized data, right? So think of all the traffic data that they don't know who you are. That's if you go on Amazon, for example, cookies know what you're into, but they don't know who you are and where it's going to get purchased, right? But that's tracking you. What happens when that anonymized data gets tagged to the public data that you have? And there's a lot of tools that already exist. Meta is actually one of the biggest companies in the world that have this algorithmic pattern finding systems that are looking at your public data and at your internal data, and they can make an accurate prediction on how this data connects. That's where a lot of people always say, oh, I mentioned something audibly and it I got an ad for it. It wasn't listening to you. It just knows your pattern of living. In fact, it might even know if you're going to catch an illness months from now, because as the data suggests and AI systems have shown, we're nothing but preset pattern-driven machines.
Yep.
So
Yeah. That's all. It's interesting. I just don't know how to navigate that future. I guess
yeah.
we just have to live it. But as that becomes more and more accessible in consumer grade devices and technology, it's just something to be aware of, I suppose, more than else. And there's not much you can do about it other than buying a nice big Halloween mask and wearing it year round.
Buying a tinfoil hat. That'll protect me from all those 5Gs.
Believe it or not, you're not wrong. You're actually onto something. Like there's actual that's going to be the next wave. It's like anti-security clothes and wearables. Like they have actual like glasses that like obfuscate infrared cameras. So when the camera or the
There are
AI
wallets like
facial,
that.
yeah,
Like there's
they have
wallets
a,
that are supposed to
yeah,
block something. I forget what
infrared.
they
No,
are.
I've seen the cameras that you're talking about, Jose. Those are mad. So you're walking along and like the camera, the CCTV picks up like no, it's just like a ball of white light basically because you've got these glasses that do that. Great for bank robbers, I suppose. So okay, so next up, speaking of fives, let's talk about the PS5 and the PS5 Pro. On September 10th, we learned of, and today's episode is a little bit of a catch up because we had to run off to connect, so we missed most of September. So there are some things we're catching up on, just in case those of you want from your regular FReality news aggregation service updates that you might have missed. This one's going to be sad though, because I'm going to leave you at the end of this with like, oh, I can't buy that cool thing. Yeah, sorry, the date has passed. But on September 10th, we learned of PS5 Pro. You got GPU upgrades, AI upscaling, this thing that PlayStation is now calling spectral super resolution. I love their naming. And zero, and I mean zero, bare bones, dry as feck news about PSVR 2 enhancements. We would expect, like with the PS4 Pro, when PSVR 1 was around, something, frame rate updates, anything, right? Like, in particular, the Gran Turismo 7 player of mine would love, full fluid 90 FPS Gran Turismo. So the flat version is going to get, 4K support. They're going to get ray tracing on the tracks, for example. But there's no news of PSVR 2 getting any enhancements, and I've not seen any conclusive tests so far of PS5 Pro. Now, the thing that really made the ripple was the price tag. $700 for this console. It's digital only. Like, there's a whole number of facets about this I won't drill into in today's show, but PS5 Pro has been announced. Now, shortly after that eye-watering announcement, we heard of the PlayStation 30th anniversary edition hardware. And so, for people who have been with this story with PlayStation since the gray brick machine all the way there till today, there is a console with the new version, the PS5 Pro. You can tell because it's got 3 lines back of the console. You've got the original PS5 in digital format. Even the Portal are each getting kind of an old school makeover in this like beautiful, sleek, like gray presentation. It looks really nice, kind of a silver look to it. Unfortunately, this is the bad news, September 26th has come and gone when you could pre-order one of these, scramble for it. And now if you want one, good luck finding a scalper who's going to sell you one for triple the money. They came out at a slight premium over the standard products. Not a single one of those products is currently available from my searches. That was available through the PlayStation Direct website. But I do think that these kinds of, limited run consoles are pretty cool, especially if you get a hands-on one. You can feel like you got a special piece of technology. So that's the PS5 Pro. And all the other PlayStation bits, the controllers, the Portal, in this special kind of silver look for the 30th anniversary. How did you guys see that? Did you like the look of it or didn't like the look of it?
Meh.
I love if anything, I love the reaction. Like people were mad at the price tag, and then they released the PlayStation one, and people were like, "Oh my god, I want it!" It's the same people that were talking about it.
I know. Yeah, so it was $1,000 for the PS5 Pro in the 30th anniversary edition with a 1 terabyte drive inside. Like,
Jesus.
the consoles are expensive these days, especially when you think about like the online subscription that adds to that. It's not a cheap thing. It's like owning a PC these days. Now with that, someone dreamed up, and I saw Mike retweet, the PSVR 2 kind of dreamed up edition of the 30th anniversary edition skin. So there's a Redditor named Broken Opus 2 who was like, I can do that in PSVR 2. So hopefully Rowdy will show you that image there in just a second. And that was kind of neat to see, because that's what I was dreaming. I was like, if you're doing your whole line, why don't you show PSVR 2? Feckin' any love, just anything.
They can't even sell the non-designed ones, let alone having a retro version of one.
Yeah, I know.
Being the executive at Sony trying to convince us that, hey, we're gonna manufacture 100,000 more of these units.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine they'd manufacture many, but like even a few thousand would be cool. And then people who wanted it get their hands on it. Even if they just sold the controllers that way, sell your controllers separately is what I'm saying, Sony. And aside from this, if you want to take matters into your own hands, well, Roddy's going to show you something pretty cool. There's a black and red PSVR 2 mod that was done by a Reddit user called Forsaken Bloodstorm. Great name, by the way. Name checks out when it comes to this. In black and red, and was clearly done with a kind of paint job on the controllers and the headset. Now, they did admit they were smart enough to use paint that because of how the controllers work, they're actually using the cameras and the light to see through the plastic that's over the top. So that light white color is very purposeful, so the cameras got punched through and they can actually see what they're seeing, and you don't get to see you get to see the light dots without seeing without the cameras being covered or whatever. This guy spray paints the whole thing, and unfortunately, forgot about the audio jack. So the audio jack gets gunked up with paint. He has to carve it out, and he said it's kind of fecked up now from an audio side, but the look is really good. So hopefully Roddy has gotten to show that. Have you seen that yet? No?
Maybe he's taking a poop.
He might just be coughing his lungs out, the poor guy. So we'll come back to that in a bit. So that was the PSVR 2 30th anniversary edition, the gray one, and then the black and red version of PSVR 2. You can find it on Reddit for yourself. The guy's name was Forsaken Bloodstorm. Okay, so that is that. All right, for this.
Wait,
okay, we've got
it up now. Yeah. Oh, that's shiny.
It looks cool. It looks pretty neat. It's like a red apple.
Yeah.
But it's it almost looks like latex is the only thing. It gives me like an adult store vibe.
Yeah, I don't think I want to be seen.
Too shiny.
Wearing a latex headset.
Or is it the glass? Is it? No, isn't it? Is it in glass? No, it's not. No, it's not. Okay, I couldn't tell because it was so shiny. But now I see the cable coming out of it. It can't be.
Yeah, but like the controllers look pretty cool, but the headset is a little bit too glossy.
It looks like it belongs in a car.
Oh, okay.
It looks like a car piece.
Yeah, like a front dash type of thing, like that's super glossy. Yeah. So I don't know if Roddy didn't show it, then I'll ask him to show the PSVR 2 30th anniversary edition from Broken Opus, the link prior to that one, which is the gray. It's in the gray, because I do want to just show you that. It's just kind of like
styled one. Yeah.
Yeah, retro
That'd
style.
Be cool. Maybe.
I'm not a fan of it.
To be honest, the kind of again, the thing I like about this is that we start to imagine a world where you have headsets in different colors. Now, I don't think it necessarily means you should be seeing. I see this one. So this is like, it just looks like kind of like an older, it works on the console. I'm not sure it works on the headset.
Yeah.
It's like medical equipment.
Yeah. Was it cool in theory? Maybe it needs more lines or to break up because it looks like something that's futuristic with an old paint. Like it needs some more retro textures or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're onto something, Adam. It looks like a VR headset from an 80s movie. That's exactly what that's exactly. It looks like a medical equipment. It looks like something that will take you to a deep dive in an 80s film.
Oh, that's good. Okay. So speaking of skinning headsets and this idea of a colorful VR domain, well, they're not the only ones to get a makeover. Apple have now, this is for the audio listeners, officially announced the Skinterface Pro Plus Max. This has been dreamed up, the Skinterface. Just wait until you see this one. If you just had lunch, you might want to hold it down, okay? Because this one just doesn't look, this one's a scary thing.
But this isn't real, right? This is someone
definitely
made.
Not real.
Okay, thank God. God,
this is
please.
So this is showing a number of accessories from Apple with a skin look, like a skin map, and they show all kinds of things, including the Apple Vision Pro. So I just want to know if you would be really keen on the Apple Vision Pro version, Jose.
The
Yeah.
face hugger.
I mean,
Sorry.
if it feels a part of my body, yes. Like, I mean, isn't that what leather is when you really think about it? Like, leather is technically like, so, I mean,
Does anyone like wearing leather? You wear that for show, right? Usually, I
Right.
mean, women.
I
I
mean,
don't know about
I
men.
wear
Some
leather all the
men.
time. Listen, I'm in leather all the time. Just kidding. But
Well, like
I
besides jackets,
yeah.
I guess.
I'm just saying. I don't know. I kind of I saw this already, and I like the. I don't know. I like the concept. I wouldn't. I hope they're more aesthetic looking, but
Oh God, it's scary. I think the thing that got me was when they showed this like hairy, light skin Apple Watch, and like they start poking it. I'm like, oh
Is that
God,
supposed to
please.
be?
God, I'm so
Oh
into it. I don't
no.
know. I'm really. What if you could get it embedded into your skin, and it's just now your skin that you're looking
Isn't
at?
that
No.
just Neuralink? Like, are we
An
Yes.
extra
just?
nipple on your
Oh,
wrist now? Like,
yes. I mean, listen. I don't kink shame, so I'm up for whatever people want. So
The question is, do you want it? So, like, I think it's funny. It started off with a backing, just for the audio listeners, we backing like iPhone case with a skin texture, and then we saw a number of things. Horrible looking Apple Watch. The earbuds were like extensions to your ears with like a bit of a skin wrap, and then we got to an interface, the Apple Vision Pro, with just I don't know. It looked like
a
the
face hugger.
Vortigons or
but
something.
what if
Yeah.
it feels so comfortable that you can't even tell that
Well,
it's
then
on you?
why can't they just make it look better and feel the
That's what I
same?
mean. That's the point you're saying. It's like, what happens if you find out? It's like, oh, these are made of skin cells of people who passed or something, or
Jeez. That makes
the
it
skin.
worse a little.
I don't know. I listen. When I die, make as many wallets if y'all want from me. I ain't gonna take it with me. So
Jesus Christ.
I
This
mean,
was Jose.
this is
I
Oh
take
my
him with me
Lord.
everywhere.
new headset strap made of
Oh.
100% Jose skin. That's
Oh my
dope.
God. That reminds me.
Wow.
There's a horror film where people wanted to get the same illness, like the strain of an illness that a famous person had. I forget the name of the film. Someone in chat might remember it. But basically, so it's like, oh, Jennifer Aniston had, Hep B. And so I want Hep B, but the strain that Jennifer
Hers.
Aniston had, yeah, fucking weird.
That
Let's
sounds
get
kind of
closer.
fire.
So
It has
weird. So
benefits. I
one
don't
of these
know.
days you're gonna be in my back pocket, is what you're saying, Jose, as a
Yeah,
wallet.
I'm ready. I mean, I know people that that can barely talk to humans and can like do magnificent work of like coding. So I don't know. Maybe there's something there to it. So
So I just want to say, Daniel Ecker, you madman, thank you for bringing us the Skinterface Pro. I'm sure Apple will be snapping you up before long.
I
Yikes.
like the Mad Hatter's comment. Did that
Nice.
watch have a nipple on it? I'll take 2.
Okay. So, moving swiftly on from one crazy project to another, let's talk about the VIBE. So 6 has recently announced yet another project. I thought for a second there was a reselling app that he was doing. I forget the
Oh,
name of it now.
yeah. I don't remember. It was
Vendor?
like an AI, like an eBay sort of
Yeah, kind of like an
AI
eBay,
thing.
match your product with a buyer, get it online like in seconds, Sounded like a smart idea, but again, this is the land of California where everybody just throws startups into the air and see what sticks. So the latest technology looks very much like, I'm just going to call it Dance Central on an Xbox 360, which is this kind of body detection, and this isn't purely VR per se. It's a camera sitting in front of your television, does full body tracking for a fitness app, with which then you see portrayed back to you on a television screen. It's called VIBE. I didn't go into much depth about it because, to be honest, not really for me. But it's nice seeing another, step in the right direction, I suppose, for this integration between exercise and kind of full body, either that be full body MR or VR, but just like making exercise more fun than just punching a punching bag.
Yeah, to be more
Smart.
honest,
Yeah.
I'm more interested in like the hardware. I'm sure that the actual game itself is probably early, but if
Yeah.
he can kind of improve, like the Kinect was pretty cool when for its time. Obviously, it's shown its age now, but if he could make like a better Kinect for modern times, people who maybe don't. I don't know if the headset's going to be part of this or not. I know that was mentioned too, but for people who maybe don't want to get a headset, if this thing can be cheaper than headsets, then maybe. I think the hardware is a neat idea. But
Yeah.
It's really smart to decouple his biggest crutch has been camera access, right? He's a big computer vision guy. He understands the benefits of making solid apps with that kind of stuff, and being able to build a dock that has the cameras, and then you can just dock whatever phone, and now the phone can just interact with these cameras, and it completely bypasses those restrictions in place that they put in place. It's incredibly smart. As you mentioned, I didn't make the association of a Connect, a modern approach to what the Connect is, but yeah, he has potential even maybe licensing the dock access to other apps, and now you have a booming ecosystem. So Six is a smart dude. When it comes to business, I do not I don't go against the dude. He knows his stuff.
Well, it'll be good to see something stick anyway. So that's called VIBE. And again, it's just one of those news articles that dropped or pieces of news that dropped since our last podcast. I thought I'd mention it. The other one we mentioned last time, which Adam did a good job of throwing in floating graphics as we were poolside, was the Snap Spectacles. So again, I'm not going to go into much detail here. I think it's been covered a lot. If you're listening to this back, you probably would have already read an article about it. So Upload covered a fair amount about this. It's the big clunky ass glasses that landed, unfortunately, a week prior to the Orion coming out. And so now they do look pretty unfashionable in contrast to the Orion's sleeker form factor as an AR glass. But again, being a real product, being something you can see on the streets, it does inspire me that we're going in the direction of wearables that allow you to be a Jetson, see into the future, and hopefully one day. A lot of people are praying for Pokemon. I'm actually praying for any other IP that can grab the world in such a captivating way like Pokemon Go did, because anything that brings nerdy ass gamers out of their dungeons, out onto the streets, see and experience the real world, at the same time be gaming, like us pasty white boys are coming for you, is what I'm saying, Earth, because we're going to get out of our dungeons at some point. But we need AR first. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like
Compelling
Niantic's doing kind of a smart move and focusing more on their own IP, which is Hello Dot. Because I don't know, I'm not part of Niantic, but I imagine working with Nintendo and the Pokemon Go IPs and stuff must be a nightmare, and probably so slow to get approvals from them for anything. So just kind of focusing on their own thing that they can reiterate faster. I get it, but you will see like in the comments, they're like, "Well, what about Pokemon Go?" It's like they're Nintendo. You know how. Yeah. I don't want to say how horrible Nintendo is, but they're kind of probably hard to work with, I imagine.
They care about proven markets. Yeah, Nintendo, and I think if anything, Niantic is doing the right thing by bringing the data to Nintendo's door. Right? Nintendo cares about proven markets. And like, well, here's the data. Here's the proven market. Right? I think it's the only way to kind of convince a company like that to even consider a Pokemon Go in AR future.
And it's interesting because their time with Pokemon Go being a cash cow must be lapsing. Because I know people who used to play it, but I mean, it's probably not 10% of the spike, right? So that is, they need to make another splash soon, because the problem with big hits is that you scale up, and then you have the costs of that scaled up infrastructure and enterprise. And if you don't find another win, then you have to scale back, and a bunch of people lose their jobs, right? So interested in the direction that they're heading with the spectacles. Interested in Niantic's partnership actually with Meta Hardware as well. I personally am not a fan of Peridot, having played it on mobile in whatever you call that, AR mode, and also their attempts on Quest, like Adam. Maybe I'm a little bit gentler with my pets. I don't knock them around as much. They didn't call child services or whatever on me, but
dunk up in paint.
Yeah, they're nice experiments, and it brings me back to Wolves in the Walls and these experiments with AI kind of prototypes where you can interface with a creature or another character, and they're driven, and there's a language and a dialogue that's fluid back and forth. So looking forward to that era. Glad they're still in the game and still in the race, but yeah, waiting to see what they come with that really lands a splash. So with that, that's probably a good segue for us to jump over to yet another type of wearable, well, in this case, headset, and it's over to HTC VIVE. I can't believe they went, it's not utter name of HTC VIVE Focus Vision.
Brave.
Dear HTC, no, I think it's the complete opposite. To me, it sings of the Burger King. It's like, oh, you made something that's popular with a popular name. I'm going to copy it. Or I had a name like for example, Cosmodread was originally called Cosmophobia. And then Phasmophobia landed, and he's like, oh shit. So that people don't think I'm a clone, I need to change my name. And that's a pain in the ass for any creator, because you're like, I was here first.
Yeah.
They should have feckin' changed the name. HTC Focus, Vive Focus Vision is a terrible name for a headset when
I didn't say it was
Apple just
good,
splashed
Brave.
his vision. Yeah. But
Bravery doesn't have to be smart.
thankfully, Adam, you've had time with this headset. I'm really curious. Can you tell us about it? I'm going to just rattle off a couple of specs first so people know you actually have it there.
I do have it here.
Fucking hell, that's awesome.
let's
Great.
go.
Yeah.
So let me give some specs so that people who are listening are like could be excited about it. First off, 90 hertz, 120 degree field of vision, Snapdragon XR2 in the center. So not the latest and greatest processor, but it's got a micro SD card for expandable storage. That's cool. Wi-Fi 6 and 6E standard. 2-hour battery life, but swappable. 2448 by 2448 per eye. LCD panel though. So again, on my side, I'm an OLED guy. Love that. Standalone and 10 by 10 meter tracking. So again, lots of standards that we're hearing there. And the thing that probably excites me the most out of all of that is probably the micro SD card expansion. But anyway, Adam, over to you. What does the headset look like? And what do you think about it?
Yeah, so first off, I'm already annoyed with some of the smudges that it has, and it kind of makes me appreciate headsets like Meta's non-shiny faceplate more, and I didn't think so, because when you first look at these things, it's like, ooh, shiny, nice, but then you're trying to take pictures and show people, and you're like, there's fingerprints on it that I just cannot get off. So very minor thing, but it's a strange headset. Setup, Vive is always really good about setup. It was super easy to get in. Pairing it with their peripherals, things like the ultimate trackers, also very easy. But also with comfort. So I can't really wear this.
Is there a dongle PC side then? How does it connect to
Yes. Well,
content? So it does standalone, but are you talking about just using it standalone, or are you talking about tethering it to a PC?
I've done both. So are you talking about like the ultimate trackers specifically, or?
So I think so. So when you were making the comment about like the interconnectivity, that made sense to me. I was just curious how you'd used it. So if you can talk a little bit about both standalone and tethering, that'd be cool.
I mean, on the standalone part, I will say at least Viveport has like I want to say a decent library. Granted, it's no Steam, it's no Quest, but a lot of the popular games you'll probably find on there to keep you busy for a while. So it's not bad. They do have a weird like mixed reality room mapping thing now. It looks very similar to PSVR 2 or Quest 3 now, where you look around, it maps your room, and then you can label furniture. But I don't know what games that would actually work with. Yeah, I don't know what would actually be the use case for that. So I thought that was interesting, but kind of goes nowhere.
Sorry, just a clarification on the storefront. So is their store the same as Viveport, or is Viveport just a subscription-based offering? Because I'm aware of Viveport being a sub you can get on any headset if you want. Got a bunch of games, but is like what's the storefront on standalone? I don't know.
Subscription. You can buy games and apps individually, or they have like subscription-based stuff where it's like you can get these titles. I want to say for free because you're paying a subscription, but I guess maybe more like I don't know, does Xbox Game Pass even do that anymore?
Feeding service.
Like a more expanded version of that, I guess you could say. So, but title-wise, like when I was doing the Pimax standalone, when there was like 5 apps, maybe, at least with Viveport, you're going to have a decent library to choose from if you just wanted to do standalone. But going back to pass-through, it's I don't know. It seems to struggle a little bit. Like the fans are blowing real hard whenever I enter pass-through mode, and it is loud. I mean, I guess it's good because it's venting, but I'm like, ooh, this is a bit much. Also, I'm very sad, but it is, at least with the default strap that it comes with, it is not a comfortable headset. I could only wear this thing for like an hour, And I think what it is like I'm used to my Quest, at least I have an aftermarket strap. There's like a swivel here, where you can almost have the front and the back half be at different angles. This one doesn't do that. So
Really?
you
Wow.
can't put the face part lower than the back part. And that I think is the killer for me. And it does have eye tracking as well, and it does an auto IPD, but I cannot maybe it's because I can't get it fitted on my head quite right, but it is slightly blurry for me. Like it is not clear, and that I think is maybe after comfort the biggest killer
What?
for me.
I actually didn't. I
Unfortunately,
didn't write that down. What lens technology is it? Is it Fresnel or Pancake?
it's Fresnel,
It's
yeah,
Fresnel.
but it's really making me think. Wow, not all Fresnel lenses are built the same. I mean that's probably obvious. I don't know each individual lens maker companies, but I don't know who Vive went with for this one, but I'm very curious now to try the Quest 3S to see how their lenses compare, because I just could not, even with they do allow you to do, it wasn't an IPD thing, because I felt like the auto IPD was pretty accurate, and you can do it manually if you want, but no matter what I did, again, maybe because I can't bend the headset, it's very light. It's not that it's heavy, it's just stiff. It's stiff.
Stiff is the right word. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the replaceable battery at the back, does it
Mhm.
come with one or two, or is it just
Um,
one that you take off and charge?
just one. So you can take off the faceplate, and then you
Yeah.
can see in the back here.
Yeah.
And then there's a little charging port here. So you don't have to take the battery out to charge it. You can charge it while it's still in the
Directly
headset,
into
which
it.
is kind of
Oh, hang
nice.
on. Where does it sit? Does it sit against your skull then?
Oh,
The
there's
battery?
there's a faceplate. There's a little padded piece that goes. So kind of, but you have a barrier. It's not like it's right there.
Yeah, it's a little close for comfort for me, but I
Yeah.
don't like.
Oh, I'd say for explosion fears and that kind of a thing.
Well,
And
And
batteries
that's
do blow every so often, so
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
it's
the
that's the
valid.
last
cool
thing the last
thing.
thing that company needs is one fatality out there, or even just an injury, because it would wreck
And
the product.
that's where I come in, putting a little cape, a tiny little
Tiny
cape
cape?
for HTC, a tiny cape, just a tiny little cape for HTC, right? It's the batteries. That's what's making this form factor be the way it is.
Huh.
They're ensuring that the legacy adopters of their former Focus line can just buy this headset and continue using the same peripherals, same batteries, same facial gaskets. But this is where I rip off my tiny little cape. And Adam mentioned it, the shininess of the headset, right? The matte design on the previous headsets, that was led because of infrared tracking and other potentially impacting lights. You don't want these headsets to be reflective because they're being adopted by arcades. Think of Chuck E. Cheese and all these very flashy light places. These headsets are going to just cause so much issues just because they're so glossy that I don't see their main market, which is arcades, LBEs, open area, mixed reality arenas. They're going to have issues getting these adopted simply because of the shininess. Maybe they'll release like a matte skin,
Cover or
but
something.
yeah, but it's one of those things where you kind of you don't really know what HTC's goal is here. I love the concept of protecting legacy, but why also create friction for them, right? At that point, just make it look like a Vive Pro or something.
Yeah, because I like the look of the Vive Pro. I like the look of the original Vive.
Mhm.
Those headsets had that. Yeah, it was like a matte, deep blue. It was a nice finish actually on the headset, even when it looked like it was a crater fest. Like
Dimples.
it looked like I don't know, a robust piece of equipment. And now this like glossy veneer, unfortunately, and I know I'm not going to fixate on this too much, but like the reason I'm saying it is I really don't like glossy headsets. I didn't like the Index's front end for that same reason. It's like I don't want fingerprint magnets. I don't want chrome. Just give me a product that I can use every day and not arrive back at it and say nothing about maple syrup now, but arrive back at it and be like, oh, this thing is gross now. Like, it's nothing to do about being a content creator. I just mean I want to have pride in the equipment that I'm using every day and not have to kind of wipe it down to appreciate the
Yeah.
beauty of the device.
At least
But
about the Index, you could take it off. I mean, granted, it wasn't pretty in
Right.
there, but it had a function too. You could use the frunk with the USB. But this one, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I didn't want to yank on it too hard, but normally these things would come apart way easier than the amount that I'm trying to stress it. So I don't think it comes off
But it's a good point, and I'll just tag here because I'm going to mention the same thing when I give you my initial impressions of the Visor. The Visor's the same. They've got this funky ass like front end that doesn't look great to my eye in person nor in photos, and then you take the thing off and it's like, sweet, I'm Darth Vader. I've got this cool like almost like taking the speaker grill off of a speaker and looking behind it. It's like a nice matte gray behind it, and I'd like having the externals exposed. I would actually think that they should go for something maybe a little bit more akin to the translucent electronics that have been, getting more and more popularity recently. Like you don't have to hide what's behind the scenes necessarily. But yeah, that chrome fingerprint magnet stuff is annoying. What would you say are the best things about the headset, Adam, from your experience so far? And I'm curious what you tried with it.
The audio is actually pretty good on it. I tried, well, both the just in headset normal audio without, third-party headset or whatever, and also the microphone
Can you
quality.
show it for a second again? I didn't see the audio config.
I don't know if I could bend the.
Is it sidebar audio? So there's
Yes.
no, yeah, okay, it's just sidebar audio
Oh my
like
God,
a.
it's like you can't see that. Yeah, but I feel like the audio quality is pretty good, comparable to, well, pretty good in that comparable to Quest 3, where I'm like, okay, like this doesn't suck. It's not crackly and it feels like, it's spatial. And the microphone audio also was surprisingly pretty good on it as well, which is somewhere one of those, going to be those tiny dots down here. The default, it's mostly, I want to say, improvements based on having tried the VIVE XR Elite, which then still makes it sound like negatives. But the interfaces, things like the facial interfaces or the backplate, it's still I think it's still magnets, but it doesn't come off as easily as it did with the XR Elite. With the XR Elite, just picking the thing up, I would take off the facial interface and trying to put it on, I would take off and that just drove me crazy. It's just I hated it. And the pass-through is also better compared to the XR Elite, I will say, because with the XR Elite, you felt kind of like a giant. Everything seemed kind of zoomed in and enlarged. But with this one, the proportions look more normal, thank goodness.
Okay, that's awesome.
But it's weird because it's like $999. I think the pre-order now comes with the wired kits, like all the cables that you need, which is good, but it's very hard to recommend it over the cheaper offerings that are out there that have bigger libraries or just clearer lenses or I know it has eye tracking, but unless you're really hardcore VR chat, I guess. And because it does, have really easy, you can plug in the facial interface, the face tracker as well. Makes it easy for social VR. But then they also have like, if you want to be able to see your phone in the headset, you can do that too. So it's just a lot of different stuff has been put in here, and I'm not really sure. It's just a very confusing headset.
One thing, it is color pass-through, you said, right?
Yes, it's color.
Yeah, if anything, like the fact that they got color pass-through mixed reality on a Quest 2 CPU, it was a Gen 1, right? XR2. That's impressive. That's impressive. Why? I don't know, but the fact that they're able to really sell such old hardware, offering modern functions. I mean, I wouldn't buy it, but cool.
It's an odd bag. It feels like a catch-up headset for HTC. I've told you the naming convention is rubbish. They should just come up with a new product name. And aside from that, as I said, the only thing out of the lineup that I really like, I don't even like the swappable battery, I'll be honest, as a on a headset, I prefer Meta's approach where it's like if you want a battery, we'll give you a USB port. You can augment it with some third-party product or first-party. What was the expansion unit? I still don't know why headsets don't offer a micro SD card to expand. Do you know anything about the technology stack there, Jose? Is there a reason why? Like, is it not close enough to the CPU? Like, you can't do it easily?
So all the HTC, the Focus 2, I think the original Focus 1 also, all the Focuses have had SD card slots. What they use it a lot for is what I mentioned earlier, NDMs, right? So if you have 1,000 of these headsets and you can just flash one of the micro SD cards with all the configuration and just boot out the headsets with that flash drive, and it enrolls it sets it up. So there's a lot of features, benefits for it, and they put it right on the motherboard. And I think it is what you just mentioned. They put it as close to the to the RAM because you can actually have it load software off the SD card and all that.
Yeah, but like I would love. I mean, maybe we can do this digitally now, right? But with all these like ROMs and emulator hardware pieces that I've been toying with
Oh,
lately, like
yeah.
being able to have your OS and your game files or whatever, you could have your VR configuration settings, and then just be like flashed to the headset if you had multiple or whatever. Anyway, I'm not gonna belabor this point, but yeah, all in all, it seems like a really weird package, and with Quest 3S around the corner. Man, does like $1,000 for that or $300 for a standalone headset? Like what was the color pass through like? Was it grainy? How would you
So
describe it? Like was it nice and clear? Like you already said the lenses themselves weren't so clear and might
sorry.
be an annoyance, but
Still a bit grainy, like not
okay.
not as good as the Quest 3. And while the proportions were better than they were on the XR Elite,
Yeah.
it was still not quite right. Like with my Quest, also I can, type relatively with the pass through, but with the focus vision, I had to still be a little bit close to be able to, if I wanted to type clearly, as an example for pass through. But yeah, I don't know. I'm always heartbroken when I say negative things about Vive because they were my OGs. I had the cheese grater OG Vive headset, and I was like, oh man, wouldn't it be cool one day to like, get to try Vive newest stuff? And now I'm not really sure that I want to.
It's hard to
I
be
don't
thrilled about it. And they've had so many misses in a sequence now, it feels like, and I don't know where they're going.
I wonder if they because their peripherals are pretty good. Granted, those are niche, but that's all they do. They're for, face tracking or just for like I wonder if they just became a really good VR peripheral company instead, if that could be something. I don't know.
Yeah. And we've said it before. I think the movies is where they belong. Honestly, as a company, I think it should back off the consumer market from what I've seen of them. That said, the Elite was a cool, like steampunk style headset that I wish they would just revise that and come back again with a stronger offering. I mean, Jose, you've used that headset a
my
lot.
favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, it's such a cool little compact headset. A lot of people don't even know. It kind of came and went in the course of a year. But Adam, between those two, between the Vision, the Focus Vision, and the XR Elite, which would be your pick of the litter between those two?
Other than the differences in pass through, which I don't know what the point.
Yeah, forget price. Forget like someone was just going to hand you one for your daily use. Like, which one would you pick?
If my sensors hadn't stopped tracking on my XR Elite, which was why I got this one replaced, still I would say the XR Elite, just because that one, for some reason, it was clearer. And I granted on that one I had the deluxe strap, so it wasn't the glasses or goggly thing, and it was comfortable though. I could wear that one for much longer, and it was fine. But I don't know about this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, Adam, did it come with controllers?
Oh yeah, it's still
Okay,
the
good.
big ass ring ones. So good luck holding a handgun with these.
Yeah, and HTC charges $150 per. So that's their $300 controller. Yeah. The pair is $300. So
that's like Vive ones back in the day. Those were
the Vive ones are still $150 per.
it's crazy, man.
They make good money in enterprise, and that's what the same thing with the XR Elite. The XR Elite, I had to do so much to love it. It's like I feel like they have all the right ideas and they just do something to just break it. The Adam mentioned it, like the facial gasket. Like I had to like completely gut. I don't know, Adam. We could probably, if you have the original XR Elite gasket, but like where it actually sits on your forehead. This right here used to be solid plastic. It would just cut into your forehead. So I had to literally like remove the plastic just to leave it in foam. And it's just like, did nobody dog food try this headset at length? Like
it's
yeah.
Like a different facial interface. It felt nicer, but the problem was it just kept coming off. Like put the headset on, it comes off because the magnets weren't
strong enough.
Hard. Yeah, I mean, I appreciated like, oh, it's so easy to swap them out, but I'm like, I wish you would stop coming off when I'm just trying to put the headset on or transporting it or any, But mini rant.
I'm going to make a little argument there for magnets versus just a push fit. I think I'm happy with a push fit actually. Like the although it's a little bit of a, you feel like you're going to break your headset every time you take a facial interface out of like a Quest or
Patch the
something.
lenses.
It's simpler.
Yeah.
It's just plastic. If you break it, you can buy another one.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like
I
it
agree.
takes more cost out because those little magnets can be kind of costly. If that's adding to the overall production cost of the headset, like just make it simpler. I don't know. I'm like you, Jose, there, where it's like it feels like their victory is just hanging out in front of them, and they could do it if they just got the right feedback loop going before
Yeah.
they released one of these things. So I hope they
and
stay
I'm with you
alive.
with the magnets, by the way. Like that's something that happened to me. I'm 6 months in after the Vision Pro came out, and a lot of people spoke about it, and I don't know how my brain didn't capture that feedback, but the magnet on the gasket for the Apple Vision Pro, like I'm gonna put my hand here because I'm terrified of it, but it is so loose. Like you cannot grab this by the headset.
Okay, stop doing that. You're fucking terrifying me, dude. Just put your baby down.
It is
Please.
terrifying. It is so terrifying how quickly you can feel it just not grab at all to the headset. So it's death to
Interesting.
magnets.
Yeah, like I get it on an Apple product because they want the smoothest customer journey possible, right? I get it. On any other headset, like just give us plastic connectors. Okay, cool. Any final thoughts on the Vision then, Adam? Just to kind of round out your summary. I don't know. Did you talk about the tethering to PC? I don't think I caught that.
Yes, I didn't really get to try with DisplayPort because my kit didn't come with the wired cables, so I have to go through my intimidating cable box to try to find like USB-C to DisplayPort or something weird, an adapter in the middle. So I always only did normally like USB to USB-C or USB-C to USB-C or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's really your internet. I mean, because you have to download a VIVE hub. It's a separate. It's kind of like Virtual Desktop has their client, so they have their own little thing that you can connect to on the PC side, and it's.
Sorry, so you did
cool.
wireless streaming from the PC with a
did
Steam
both.
VR thing? Or okay, and you also did the USB-C cable connection.
Oh, I will say, Virtual Desktop is available on VivePort. Yay! So that was nice. So I just used that most of the time if I did wireless.
Good. Shout out to Gigo Dan for excellent
Yeah.
software. Yeah.
Take my money.
Please be maybe he just can't bring hand tracking, please to the HTC platform. Like that's the reason I don't use an XR Elite. The XR Elite, if he would have had hand tracking on that thing, it would have still been my daily headset.
The Vision has hand tracking. Yeah.
But on Virtual Desktop.
Virtual Desktop.
That's where it's not supported. Same thing with mixed reality.
Okay. I'm going to try and pick up the speed here. We got some more to cover. Next up is a similar headset, actually, the Visor. So Visor not being really pointed at kind of full-fat VR, MR gaming, but rather productivity, in particular from the immersed software stack that comes. Now, one of the coolest things about Visor is it's relatively small and lightweight. So it's meant to be like a sunglasses form factor. What you saw initially in the promo stuff was like this sleek little kind of eyeglasses shade. I'd say in person, it's a bit chunkier than slim. I wouldn't call it slim. It is meant to weigh in around about 190 grams. The screen on it is actually quite nice. Reminded me more of a rich display, kind of like the X-Reels. Looks quite nice. Like the full color pass-through, fine, totally acceptable. It's kind of sits somewhere between, not as good as a Quest 3, I'd say, in terms of the full color pass-through, but definitely not near that like Quest 2 black and white grain, So somewhere on that spectrum, maybe halfway along. So totally usable, I would have said. Immersed is the thing that I have the most problem with. If this partnership was like using Virtual Desktop, I'd probably buy one, right? It's like that's probably the difference. One of the things I would say is their hand tracking worked very well. You could flip your hand over and show kind of like it was a grip panel, a bunch of different settings, and that worked well. Unfortunately, the demo that I had in a coffee shop was at the end of a bunch of people trying it. The headset was overheating at the time. They've apparently since fixed it. And the meme that was going around at the time for everybody who was getting to try it was that they were taking an iced frappuccino, and holding it against the headset just to get the cooling down, which was hilarious. But I'm sure it was very frustrating for Renji and his team. But it was nice that they came along after what had been quite a problematic demo in Texas, came out to California, rocked up, like put the word out to creators like, hey, you want a slot, come along and see the headset. So again, thanks for that. I think that's a very smart move, by the way. And it gives me the sense that it's like, oh, like the immediate feeling I got from Renji was this guy's got grit. He really wants this thing to work. He wants to live it. He's talking about its pros. But the thing is, being able to embrace a meme like that and be like, hey, guys, we're not doing the Frappuccino cooling anymore. We fixed the software. It's now running, cool or whatever. It just tells us it's not quite ready yet. It's not really ready for a demonstration yet. I don't think it was ready for Texas. I don't think it was ready for California. But the point is, like, don't do the Hammerhead Pimax mistake of trying to win time to market before it's ready. Like, get the thing ready. Let the other people fall down. Be more the tortoise than the hare. I could tell from in person, like him, that company, they seem to be the hare. They're like, go, 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 right? But it's like, yes, you can keep running and grinding after this target, but like, get it right. Take that user feedback, polish it. I'm not certain that Immersed makes a winning combination for me. I'd need another full form demo. I'd need time with the headset. They had a stock version. I forget what it was called. The stems. So there was a version where this thing was, again, kind of chunky out front and then stems like for sunglasses. And I'll say this, it was more comfortable than I was expecting it to be. It was lighter. It was more useful than I was expecting it to be, which is a good thing. I was expecting it to kind of be like I would walk away disappointed. I wouldn't say that. I would just say it was kind of like when I tried the Wayfarers the first time, like Meta's Stories, the first attempt at the partnership with Meta, where it was like, oh, this is cool. I'm interested now, but this is not for me yet. And then similarly with the X-Reels, like earlier renditions of Nreal and stuff, I'm like, okay, I see where you're going, but it's there. I think someone with a proper head strap associated, which they're planning, I believe, to ship with it, I think it could be quite a comfortable option. And it certainly looks more attractive than the Beyond to me, because the Beyond is very much like swim goggles, like it fucking fixates to your face. And as somebody who's working a lot and has his face on a Zoom call, I don't want that in the middle of my day, to take it off and look like I just went to the swimming pool. So the Visor, in terms of its hardware, is kind of attractive to me, actually. The pass through the lenses, which Rowdy's showing as well, gives you a good example of the quality that I saw. Like, it's usable. Definitely a usable device. I think that the financial model totally breaks it for me. Pay $500 now. It used to be $400. $500 for the hardware up front, plus like a $40 or a $60 subscription every month. Like, I'm just not interested then. I'm like, no. So
what
I
else
would
are you
rather
supposed to get out of the subscription besides, like what? It's got to be something other than where you must use this headset. You need the subscription, right? There's got to be more planning behind
just
it.
Immersed. No, I don't know. I think it's just for the services, but I am a little underinformed when it comes to Visor, admittedly so. I did want to remark on the first impressions from the demo. I would say this much. I am now interested, and I'm kind of going to track it. I'm going to keep my eye on the ball as it goes. I doubt that their version 1 of this product will be for me. And it looks like the interesting thing is I was expecting Meta, especially given their AR glasses coming and the Wayfarers and stuff, they don't have that intermediary product. So right now, after my experience with the X-Real Air 2s, X-Real are the best purchase for me right now from what I've tried. I'm interested in Visor because Visor isn't so field of vision limited like the X-Reals, but I think it's going to take another version before we get it, is my opinion. And I again, I'm going to challenge Immersed because there's several things I don't like about Immersed. I'll talk about this maybe another day. Happy to speak to the team about my impressions as a person who is emphatic about all-day use. But if I had to go for a device to use as a screen in that way, if I want the big screens and all this kind of thing, right? Like they were showing there in the through the lenses shot. If I want that, I would go for Quest 3. I would probably pick up the open-sided facial interface so that it's comfortable. But I actually don't want anything touching my face. So I might even go so far as to like with the Quest Pro, Jose, how it would just
Mhm.
like sit in front of your face, like the
Oh, that's
links,
it,
it would
yeah.
just sit there and it wasn't touching your face at all. That's what I would want with a Quest 3 at the moment as my like go-to for productivity. And then I'd probably use it for like a maximum of 4 hours in a day, just given the weight and the battery and other things. But I think right now the Visor, I think early adopters will be okay because it's a functional product. That's what I got from the demo. It's a functional product. But yeah, I don't think I personally have a use case for it. So for people who are like me, who are gamers more than they are the productivity person, I think it's a skip. That's my sense of it. But I was
Even
really
for
grateful for the
productivity,
demo.
though. Yeah, I think for me, productivity wise, and I love I believe in Renji. Like I don't believe in the Visor as much. I don't believe in immersed and stuff, but I do believe in Renji. Renji has what I consider the right qualities to build a company, right? And he definitely demonstrates that. And I love that you did the comparison of the tortoise versus the hare and how obviously they're being the hare in all instances. They have to be. And you also mentioned the reality of there not being a comparable device at the moment to the Visor. And that's where you recognize why they're being the hare, because this is a very, very interesting, but yet very easy, low barrier of entry for any of the established XR manufacturers to come in and immediately do this easier and better.
Yeah, that's why they have to race, right? So
Exactly.
they're in a really
I
tight
mean,
spot. That's why I said
XR Elite, right? Look at the XR
it
Elite. It was
reminds
last
me
year.
of Pimax. When Pimax were clearly trying to get better field of view versus anybody else, but they were basically trying to break the rules of physics, so it looked like garbage on the sides, and their software stack was very shaky. So like, I get they got to run, but unless you meet MVP, unless you meet that minimum viable product,
Yeah.
like.
I mean, think of all the people that got
Tough.
demos that aren't like you, that are like, no, I'm never going to try this ever again. That was their first impression, and that will be their forever impression because they're not going to be willing to give it another shot with how it was in its current state. So that's unfortunate. And that even if it does get to be something one day, because I feel like had some of these demos too early, it's just been written off by, a significant amount of people that could have said better.
So the trouble is this, and this is again going back to Pimax. Pimax broke a lot of enthusiasts' hearts because they're like, I believe in you. Here's my money. Just give me something that's functional, right? And then they committed to certain ship by dates, and they were running against those like mad, and they weren't ready, and then they were late, and they were super late, and then they shipped products that were half baked. Like, that's a huge mess, and it's a mistake because it's going to tarnish those people's careers who create this thing for years ahead, right? So my suggestion would be, having seen what Pimax went through, take a deep breath. If you have to, as a company, come out with a formal announcement or whatever, and like pause for 2 or 3 months, work on this thing, software stack, until it feels like ready to ship. I would do that. I would take that time, even if there's a little bit of an uproar from the people who bought it. I would say, look, you're not getting it in October. You're going to get it in January or whatever their timeline is. Again, I'm not super
They
informed.
delayed, I believe. Actually,
They're already delayed, and I think they did. But I'm saying, like, if you're in that sticky spot, I know it takes big cojones to do it, but like telling people up front and being communicative, much better than breaking the person to their heart when the product shows up on their door, right? And they open it, and they try it for the first time, and they say, "I'm never going to buy a product from you ever again." Like that. So they're really close. They're really close, is what I feel. They're really close to a product that I'd be interested in.
Yeah, I would say this. I as much as I want to agree with you, now that I'm on the other side and I run the company, storytelling is so important. So important. In fact, I'll give you a great example. Recent AWE where Palmer Luckey was talking. What did Palmer Luckey was boasting around carrying? He was carrying a
DK1.
DK1, but do you see the marking on it, like dangerous materials? He was engaging people to be interested. The fact that within a week the headset was having firmware issues, and all of a sudden, like a few days later, he went to the content creators and showed them it working. In fact, you're saying it yourself. You saw a working application. All they need to do is get immersed working really, really well. They don't need to care about the core OS. They don't need to care about anything else, because that's why the subscription model is important. They're building a really, really, really good featured headset. This is not, and this is where I've been talking about this for months, and I even mentioned a lot of time in the podcast. We're going to see the beginning of a whole entire new product market, which is going to be featured headsets. It's going to do nothing but do immersed really, really, really well. And by doing that, similar to HTC's mentality, they get to optimize the hardware as cheap as possible to run that application really, really well, which means they might be able to reach the Orion 5-year vision way sooner, because they're not thinking about, multitasking.
And once you get in the door, and once you've sold someone on the product, you iterate, and then it's like they're already just like Adam, right? If you have the first version of the product, you're like, I'm in for the second one almost by default. Like you've already got me, and so you almost prefer the devil you know versus the devil you don't. Yeah. And so I understand why they're racing. I'm not saying they can't do that at the same time as just take a.
I would say that's the things that I think about, right? Because I always think about like the behind the scenes, the fact that it was clearly a firmware issue on the headset when they were showing it off. The fact that they didn't call out Qualcomm, the fact that they didn't talk about the partner that's actually helping making this all happen, goes to show how much they're making this. It just, I see the storytelling. I truly do see this headset releasing. It's going to be a really good Gen 1 Visor headset. They might not even want to open this up to other applications or anything like that. Why would they? Right? That's the reason they built the headset, because they wanted to make money off the users using immersed. And this is the perfect way to do it. You couldn't do that with Meta or these other companies, because Meta's going to want to cut.
Yeah. Well, that's Visor. So glad, again, thanks Renji and team for the demo. Met some nice members of his team and his friends who were there, showing it off. Great strategy. I think it's a really good strategy to do that. Like, try to kill off a lot of the negative press that was coming out of Texas. So I think that was an effective strategy. One final thing I'll say is, if like me, you happen to have a big old nose, that headset works very well when you've got something to support it. I didn't find that it was uncomfortable in that respect, but I think if you've got a button nose or something, it wouldn't work quite as well.
Man.
So, for those who have smaller featured faces. Okay, so next I wanted to talk about an app, just really in passing, that I came across. I was waiting for friends to land in California, and I was like, oh, there's an AR app. So I went to Flight Radar, which is that lovely map of the world and has all those, I like to call them bees, the buzzing bees, all the planes crossing from Europe to the US and all the places that they have the map of. And then there was an advertisement for like, oh, we have an AR app. And I was like, you have an AR app? That sounds pretty cool. So what I wanted to demonstrate was what the functionality is in this app. It's very simple. As a plane is coming in out of the sky and it's landing, you can have their AR app up, and it tags the plane and shows you exactly the flight number and stuff that as it's coming into land. So you see all these planes at an airport, and I was like, it just seemed like a really cool application for AR, especially when you've got a plane with all your friends on it that's about to come and drop on a runway. So that's Flight Radar 24. They have an AR app, so go ahead and download on your devices.
My husband's always picking me up from the airport, so I'll be like, well, now you can just look in the sky. Well, it's LAX, so it'd probably be hard to pick one out amongst the 10 that are probably all coming in. It's similar, but that's really cool.
And if the execs at Meta are listening up, right, think about your Meta Wayfarer glasses and how you could integrate this as an AR app at some point, so you could track, with your vision, you could track planes coming in, combine that with the data and be like, yep, that's Adam's plane, or and
now you can go inside the plane, know all the individual people in the plane, where they were born, their addresses,
all their data.
You can track them from state to state. Like, there's no more running away from your stalker. All right, good thinking there, Adam. Thanks. Quick on your feet. All right, with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about some just game news before we get over to releases. So things that had come up. And Jose, if I step on any of your toes, just shut me up and I won't talk. These are mostly peripheral type things. The first one is Fall Flat is coming to VR. And the reason I wanted to mention this one is that it reminds me of really early on in VR, we had a version of Gang Beasts, which is again these cute little squidgy kind of claymation characters that are, throwing each other into hazards like a fire pit, for example. And so this lighthearted platformer that's present in Dreamscapes is now coming to VR. There's 8-player multiplayer. So again, I love seeing the conversion of games that were in flat and maybe had been assumed to only ever stay there to then kind of cross the boundary and come over. So good on the devs for that. But even more so good on the devs because this is a modder's victory. As was posted by the creator of this mod, the dev team had reached out to a creator who had created a fall flat to VR mod and said, "Hey, we want to buy this." They bought it, and it helped them in the conversion. Like, isn't that just such a dream?
Was that
That's such a dream.
right? Rai Kuparta? Or, I think I'm
Yes,
pretty sure.
that's right. Rai
Yeah.
Kuparta. That's right.
My heart. I
So
love that.
yeah,
So
so
good.
this is again another place where we haven't seen enough of it because devs are like, I don't have the time. I got to focus on flat. I can't do VR. Even if I take one person on my team, I don't have the budget for it. Well, guess what? There's people out there who are inspired fans of games, developing the conversions for you. You just you make them a fixed offer, bam, or bring them on your team. I mean, I've seen so many cool dev studio conversions, but this is another one of those little examples. I just want to show out there. If you're a budding dev, if you're a budding modder, mod the game, tell the company. Mod the game, tell the company. Show them that this has happened before. Be like, hey, this is my price. You want to buy it? Or even just say, hey, would you be interested in me showing this off? Maybe they'll invite you to their studio or whatever. There is an avenue here for real jobs to be created and founded, and for your dream to become a much, much bigger package for your audience. So,
God, mic drop right there. That needs like
damn,
background music. I wanted to scream. I was like, yeah.
So good.
love it. Love it. So great to see
Inspiring.
that stuff. Okay. And then last podcast, I did mention something in passing. I thought I'd mention here again, which is real quick. Wordle came to VR. The flattest game possible came to VR. But again, this is about that kind of whole opening of 2D apps that are this flood, this inundation is coming to your Quest store. So this is like a heads up warning message for people who are like, oh, I've got a flat app that I really like. And, hey, that's going to probably come to your Quest at some point. Obviously, the obvious ones, which we lost for a few years, were like Netflix and Prime Video, things that, the official apps slowly died off and then got axed. So now you've got these kind of making their resurgence. And Wordle, I don't think we've ever had Wordle in VR before. I don't remember if it was there in the Gear VR days, but there you go. There's Wordle. After that, I want to go to something that's a little bit more spatial in representation, which is I saw a mock-up. It's a video mock-up of an open road AR example. I wanted to get your opinion of this, if it's something that you could see yourself playing. But again, imagine the state in the future. We're 5 years or whatever down the road, maybe a little bit more than that. We've all got these Orion kind of glasses on, right? We're getting full color, high detail pass through. Can't even tell what's the real world and what isn't. And it shows this dad and his kid jumping between blocks on a road that's all broken apart, and there's a giant pit underneath. So it's kind of like the floor is lava, but rather the floor is, well, incredibly dangerous in this case. But would you play a game like this? Would you maybe go back to Eye of the Temple, for example, and play it out in public?
So the tech person to me is like, oh, this could be maybe not this specific game, but I can see this technology being used in cooler things in the future. But the marketer in me is like, oh, he had his son on his shoulder so that people would comment, be like, oh, it's so dangerous to have your son. Like, so that part bothers me a little bit, where I know it was done on purpose just for the engagement, but I can like commend it and hate it at the same time. But yeah, I mean, not like those use cases kind of boring to me, in my opinion, but I feel like given to the right people, given it to like Niantic or something, I think they can make something really cool out of it. Maybe not on the road. I mean, there's probably gonna be warnings like don't use this on a street, but in the park or something. Or
yeah, my thought when you were just talking there, I was thinking of like if you could walk through a graveyard and have zombies coming out of the graves, and then they start chasing you. That'd be pretty cool.
So you go around with like gun hands.
You see Jose with a wallet-sized cutout right here.
Yes.
Just coming after you
with his skin wallet. Yeah.
When they know I'm having a wallet on me. I don't know. I really worry about AR in public use. For me, it's the opposite. For me, it's like you made the graveyard analogy, and I just imagine exactly that, like people stealing like people's likenesses of dead people's bodies and grabbing that info and stuff like that. I don't know. I fear the blurred lines. I want the lines to be blurred between reality and digital, but I also don't trust my fellow brother and sisters with that world because I feel like there's going to be so many accidents and
Well, I mean, look at Pokemon
yeah.
Go. And then I guess if you're on the
Yeah.
moral standpoint, having a bunch of people playing in a graveyard, that seems kind of rude, you know? But I don't know
That's
if
a
it
good
would.
point. I
Yeah.
remember that where there were like papers saying like group of Pokemon Go people tramples
Mhm.
local graveyard. Yeah.
So it's like now we're gonna make a game where you have to play it in a graveyard. It's gonna
Zombies
go
could come
over
from
very well.
anywhere. Who
Do you
knows?
think
Yeah.
this leads to like anti? You know, it happened with drones where like they GPS locked drones from flying in certain regions. Do you think that we're going to eventually reach a point where like maybe if you go into like a restroom, your Meta Ray Ban start beeping really loud to tell you to turn it off, or like just things like that to
Mhm.
create some
Yeah,
pseudo
geofencing. No,
privacy?
I
Yeah.
think 100% control. It'll be 10 years from now, right? But like the government will enforce controls that are going to piss us the hell off. So enjoy the Wild West while we've got it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that. With that, enjoying the Wild West. Another point about the graveyard: Windows mixed reality headsets. So this has been a steady erosion and a slide off of off of the stable landscape. So Windows mixed reality headset support in Windows 11 has gotten essentially patched out. So your Windows mixed reality headset will stop working. If you've got like a HP Reverb, Reverb G2, one of the Asus original headsets, these headsets that were pretty well priced a few years ago, and a lot of people picked up because again, good price for what you get, and interesting use case. Still had some hold on the Steam ladder about who was using these things with Steam, for example, for a number of years. But this has been a slippery slope. And content creator Tyriel Wood, who's known very well for his through the lenses shots, which are just immaculate. And shout out to Tyriel because he's a great guy. Had loads of fun hanging with him again at yet another Connect. Had posted about, and this tweet went super viral, about Windows 11 and the problems that it has. So he basically said, look, if you're on an older version, do not update. It will break your Windows mixed reality headset. So this is another one of those moments that we continue to have in the VR space where headsets go from fully supported to bricked, unfortunately. So we've seen this affect a number of pockets, and we knew Microsoft was pulling away from their mixed reality attempts, and this looks like the nail in the coffin. So if you're a WMR user still, you might want to consider jumping ship to a different headset manufacturer, or stick with your old system as is. Okay. That is that. So that's it for the news today. I know we're running a little bit long, but still want to make time for our usual spot over to Jose for releases.
Yo. All right. So I got 3 titles today. The first one I have is Starship Troopers Continuum. Releasing October 17th on the Quest. It's set 25 years after the Battle of Klendathu in the 1997 film, with Casper Van Dien returning as Johnny Rico. Continuum features 3-player online co-op with an option for solo gameplay. See that, Adam? We can play this instead of scary games. It has 3 people in it.
Yeah, I do like the
yeah.
co-op. But you gotta expand your horizons sometimes.
Yeah,
Maybe it'll be.
I don't wanna. See, this looks like the perfect amount of fear that I can deal with. See, a guy with an eye patch, that's perfect for me.
Oh my god.
We'll see about this one. I don't know.
Yeah.
Of Starship Troopers in VR, that the idea is seems like a no-brainer, but
Yeah.
I don't know. This is from the Hitman 3 Quest people, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
that
it's
have-
XR Games?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
The people who just like got rid of most of their staff?
Yeah.
Well, they
That's who
said
it's
that
from?
this game, and I think they have another one coming out this year. They said that they'll still come out. They're still coming out despite the huge layoff. So I'm guessing most of it was probably
Oh my
done
God.
before the layoffs.
Yeah.
So again, I'm gonna be sort of realistic and expect the worst, but I'm looking forward to be hopefully pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
This
I
has a
want to be
silver
pleasantly
lining.
surprised.
This has a silver lining in that I want the Helldivers devs to see this and go, your
Yep.
game is terrible. We're going to do it better.
Yes.
They're not going to do that because they're under other immense pressures. But
Yeah.
I do want Helldivers in VR, please. So keen to see what it looks like first person because it does feel very much like that. But I agree with Rowdy's lovely, succinct comment. He says, this looks shite.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too. Like, even when you see the enemies, right? When you play something like Helldivers, when you actually see the bugs rushing at you, and you get like a sense of danger, like the film. This does not have that. When you see the bugs, you can see them like slowly walking towards you.
It said PS. I wasn't paying too much attention, but the beginnings was that did it say PSVR 2, but then the footage looked Quest like, or were they just saying all of the platforms that it was coming out on?
Yeah, so it's releasing on the 17th on Quest, and later down the month on PSVR 2. And has the Hitman on PSVR 2 released yet or no?
So you're not talking about the Meta exclusive one. So
no,
it hasn't. No, the one that's basically 1, 2, and 3, all done.
And that's XR Games too, right?
No. So XR Games did the recent, I'll call it Meta exclusive.
Okay.
What was it called? Shoot, Hitman
3.
Hitman 3 sucks a lot, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And that one, I haven't played it yet, so I am not passing judgment, but judging based on what I've seen of the bugs and it looks like gangrenous. But the next Hitman for PSVR 2 only is a different studio altogether and actually has like VR movement and stuff. It actually looks like it might be the first half decent Hitman.
Oh, that's right.
That's World. What was it called? Like World Assassin or something?
Yeah, that's right.
World of Assassination. But that's not XR Games, is what you're telling me.
It's not. It's not.
Wow.
Third try.
Well, I thought that was okay. Well, then I feel even less optimistic about Starship Troopers. I get really concerned, right? It's not cheap to get a well-known person as Casper Van Dien to come back to replay a character. Yeah, that's oof. So
is this like we have bad movie and show adaptations
of games? It's
and
the
now
opposite
like
around. It's I think it's that because I've seen so far every time we see like a proper IP, it really gets underserved. And when was the last time we had a really great IP come to VR formally?
The Jurassic World one I thought wasn't bad because I was like cell shaded, so you couldn't really judge.
It wasn't a bad game. It just wasn't
not memorable, but not like bad.
It wasn't Jurassic Park level scary though. That was the problem. It was a decent world. It was a decent game. I enjoyed it, but it didn't feel like Jurassic Park to me. Could have been any other kind of dino game, Anyway, I'm sure chat would come up with interesting combinations of those. But all right, so that was a couple of different platforms initially launching on Quest on the 17th. You said
correct. Yep, that's Starship Troopers Continuum. And up next I have well-known game hitting VR, Just Dance VR hitting October 15th on Quest. So dance the night away or the day away or virtually. Releasing October 15th on the Quest. Don't see any info on the other platforms. But no price yet announced for that.
Yeah, that was there in the booths at Connect. I didn't try it, but years ago I used to do all the dance ones. Streams love it when you're an idiot in front of a stream dancing away. So I don't know. I've always been a Dance Central guy, and I know they recently again pulled support for that, and that broke my heart. Just Dance, maybe I'll give it a shot. We'll see if it's any good.
I'll tell you this. I have friends who are obsessed with Just Dance. I don't know if you guys know this, but Just Dance has a very, very large lore to it that the hardcore fans love. And when whoever's listening to this and they want to just have their mind blown and get down a rabbit hole, just YouTube search.
So after Lord of the Rings, Tolkien moved to write Just Dance's backstory.
It feels like it, honestly.
Right.
It is.
Okay.
It is peak storytelling, and the fact that it involves dancing is, Anyways, Just Dance VR, October 15th on the Quest, and got 2 more. All right, Metamorphosis VR, also releasing on October 10th. Metamorphosis, based on The Metamorphosis, the book by Franz Kafka, if I'm saying that correctly. But Metamorphosis uniquely combines confusion, bewilderment, wonder, and beauty, all imparted by the shift in perspective. So that's releasing on October 10th. You
Screen
guys
game.
read the
It
book?
started as a flat screen game on Steam, and you get turned into a bug essentially. So now you're. It's very. It's weird.
Weird.
Um, I don't know. It could be
Well,
it could be good, like to see to actually get that perspective as a bug in VR versus like seeing it on the flat can give you that depth better. But I don't know. I don't know about
I'm
this.
open
It's
to
a-
it. Let's see. Let's see.
it's the only game that made me want to become like a bug-based mobster. I think that they definitely did. They did really cool with that.
Very specific.
Yeah. Hey,
That's
if
incredibly
if I'm
specific.
gonna be a mobster, I might as well be a bug when you think about it. Like what
Like
other
a
animal
cockroach?
or creature? Cockroaches. Yeah, I guess, but that's too on the nose, right? Like that's too obvious. Like this is a
With the
mobster.
cigar.
There's been a
Yeah.
few bug games lately that are pretty cool. Like Empires of the Undergrowth was a strategy
Mm.
game that came out in flat, which would be kind of cool if it was VR converted. There was that one where everyone was kind of like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, where everyone was like super tiny, and I forget it was
Grounded?
kind of like rounded. Yeah,
There was a mod for I think UE maybe was it a mod separately or was that a UE VR thing? I don't
sounds like
remember.
UEVR. Yeah, but I haven't tried the mod. But yeah, those games could come over. That'd be interesting. All right, so we'll give this one a shot too. What was the price of this one?
Yeah. No price announced for it yet. October 10th on Quest. Metamorphosis VR. And the last one I have also no price announced yet, but they all I think it's $29.99 US. Tends to be the average for Quest games. But the last one I have, and Adam will probably be able to talk a little bit more about this one, but I'm very excited, is Maestro VR. Get ready to become an orchestra conductor in Maestro. Check out the Maestro. Oh, that's it. Yeah, but yeah, it's pretty much a conductor game, and you orchestrate scenic events. And there's a few games that have done this. I try to remember the other one that's orchestrating. But what I like about this one is the fact that there's set pieces that you're playing music towards. So if you can see in the trailer, you can see like a war happening. It's much more, I guess,
It's
immersive.
so good. I really appreciate when developers like I like rhythm games, but I like when they're different like this. Like, we're not hitting stuff with stuff. I like that too. But like there was a demo for this. Maybe it's still out, I'm not sure. But I only used hand tracking. I didn't use controllers, and it is so fun because I actually held a pen in my hands, so I could feel like I was actually holding something. But it has like your up and down, arrows, but then there's yellow arrows. That's when you do like two hands and it's like a harder hit. But then there's the crescendo, you raise it up and then there's like you stop it. Like I don't know if this is accurate to what conducting like the actual hand moments they have, but I feel like it could be. Like it just feels that realistic and satisfying. And you get to like when you're pointing to specific instruments in the orchestra to get them to activate, like they will animate and they'll start responding right away. And then when you finish the whole thing, you turn around, people are throwing roses at you, there's lights flashing, you can see little like social media bubbles that are popping up being like, oh, great performance, whatever. They did such a good job with this game. Like I'm really excited for the full one to come out. So good.
You
So
described
that crescendo, yeah, sounds excellent. But yeah, the Logitech, is it MX, the pen? Could that be used here?
I was thinking the same thing. I was when she mentioned holding a pen, I was like, man, the MX Ink should be.
Why? Because it's just an up and down flick of the hand. It's not like the pen's going to be actively. You could hold it, I guess, if you wanted a nice pen to hold, but I don't see it's not like you're outputting anything
different.
Because it's not tracking the stick. It's tracking your hand. So it's more of this motion versus where the stick's going.
Okay. Interesting. So it's more the wrist motion than okay.
Yeah, wrist and hands, because like there's also big up and big down hand motions. I'm not a conductor. I don't know what they're called.
But that weird like grabbing the air thing.
So good, and it's not just like. Sorry, no offense to anyone who really likes. It's not just all boring classical music. You've got like big cinematic stuff from movies. There was rap. There's jazz. Like they're gonna have different exciting titles.
But then see, that's the thing. That kind of a game, if you get the core right and it feels different from other stuff you've done, then you've got the whole cash cow route of DLC. You're like, oh, you want to play your favorite music, but that environment. I mean, it looks like there's quite a bit of dev effort goes into the environments that are there. So I'm definitely going to try that. It looks mouthwatering.
So good.
be
And
honest. It's good.
the last thing, sorry, I loved the demo so much. Like you can change the wardrobe of the people in the orchestra. You can change the stick that you're holding. Maybe you want it to be a feather or whatever. You can change the scenery. So you saw the sort of wartime one with the cannons, and your hand as well. So there's different like themed things that you can change about the scenery. Like it's so good. There were so creatures like doing like all of their games. I'm freaking loving. I don't know. I know you
Yeah.
like don't stare for Starship Home, but I think they're just killing it with all
But,
the titles.
Again, so from a development perspective, what I've seen from them is attention to detail. It's really important to see in a dev, because what you see from a studio who doesn't have the artistic eye, like neither the software stack nor the artistic eye, like from the creative direction, is that you end up with, oh, I need to tell and show you stuff that isn't already imbued in the scene. So for example, when we were looking at Starship Troopers a moment ago, I'm like, there are flat health bars hanging above creatures' heads.
Yeah.
That tells me you've done like no evolution from the time that you developed. You're like, oh, let's test and see if these creatures are tough enough or whatever, doing the balancing, to now. It's like you made no changes. You didn't even think about the color of paint. Whereas like Maestro, straight off the bat, right? It's not called Maestro VR because they have confidence. It's this bold presentation. They've thought about it. The calligraphy and the writing is just
good.
spot on. And again, that kind of concept of building the feeling of being there. People who get VR know that's what it's about. It's like you had a dream and all of a sudden you're plopped in there, and make me feel it, right? Like, and make it fun. So I do actually think the creature, even from their very logo, are doing very good work so far. I'm quite impressed.
Last extremely minor detail, since I love those little things, but in the tutorial there are audio cues. So first you're like learning how to do the first note, wrist flick, whatever, but then you hear clapping behind you, and then that's how you know to turn and look at the guy who's going to teach you the tutorial. They do really good audio cues to get you to just naturally look at the things they want you to look at without having like an arrow or being like turn left or something. You know, it's just I love when it's natural like that. It's like, oh, there's who's clapping at me. Oh, there's a guy there. Oh, now he's teaching me how to do the game. Like,
Oh, that's cool.
oh, it's beautiful. Fuck, just play it. I don't know. Just fucking play it. Get it.
Woo! Love the
Yeah.
energy. Great.
I'm so down.
All right.
Yeah,
So
that's
recap
it.
time then, Jose. Tell us what, I think it was 4 that you covered off there.
Yes.
What were they?
So Starship Troopers Continuum, October 17th on Quest. Just Dance VR, October 15th on Quest. Metamorphosis VR, October 10th on Quest. And Maestro on Quest. And I believe that is out now, right?
There's a demo.
There's a
I
demo
don't know.
out now, and the
The
release
game comes
date,
out very soon.
Yes, I believe it's within the week. I mean, I just want to have the exact date.
At least within the month.
Yeah.
I think
that'd
that
be
was that was announced very recently, like an official
Yeah.
release date. But
I had the tweet here. I'm going to unfortunately I don't have the exact date, but I'm pretty sure it's before the 19th of October. I can
look
say
it
that
up. It's awesome.
confidently.
So
Yeah.
my thought is that even though as gamers, like we don't have let's say a flashy new headset in Q4 coming out that, we should all kind of move to, the software side, God, we've got it. We've got loads happening between now and January. I mean, loads. There's like several heavy hitters, everything from Behemoth to Alien to, I mean, there's just like so many things, Metro and across the different VR platforms as well. So it is a heavy run that we've got coming for us. That's great, because as the weather turns colder and you're coming indoors again, your headset's there like, where were you, baby? And that's ready for you to show it some loving. So with that, let's go ahead and wrap this up. This podcast runs every 2 weeks, every other Saturday on YouTube and Twitch. Timestamps are going to follow. We've got an audio version that comes a few days later on SoundCloud, Spotify, and iTunes. I want to thank again, especially Rowdy, who wasn't able to be here today. His voice sounds awful. Poor guy's going through some proper illness here, so hope he gets better soon. And again, thanks for running the show and sitting around with us, Rowdy, today. Chat, thanks for being here with us. And that is all for today. We'll see you on the next FReality Podcast. Peace.